they'll play their hearts out for you. That it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be mistakes. Hopefully there's not too many, and I don't want to make the same mistake twice. But I know that they're going to play their heart out for this team and for this organization and for our city.
Titans winners last night. Vrabel saying that team will play its heart out. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. Today we are at Bridgestone Arena where the Predators are taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. And tonight is Jewish Community Night where we celebrate Hanukkah here at Bridgestone Arena. In fact, the Preds got me this nice little yarmulke. If you're looking at the stream, I've got it right here. A Preds-themed yarmulke. Will be lighting the menorah apparently today here at Bridgestone Arena. Very, very exciting times, especially on the heels of that football victory yesterday. Ian is here today. Hello, Ian.
What up, what up?
Okay, let's start with the game last night. Let's get right to it. Last night was a great night for the Tennessee Titans. First of all, what a freaking game. What a freaking comeback last night. I mean, I was, encouraged by the fact that the Titans hung in there. Now, look, Tyreek Hill got hurt. And if Tyreek Hill doesn't get hurt, then probably a little bit different. But guess what? Jeffrey Simmons didn't play either yesterday. But again, Tyreek Hill is the Dolphins. Like, I don't want to sit here and say we can all agree on that because I think a lot of us are going to, disagree and say, not fair, Jared. But they benefited from not having Tyreek Hill. And I think we all learned yesterday watching the game, and if you didn't see this, then you're blind. Tua sucks. And that was good. And it wasn't perfect from the Titans yesterday. They gave the Dolphins 21 points. The coaching at times was disgracefully bad last night. And yet the Titans won. And the Titans won because of one guy, the quarterback. What else could you ask for? There is no hope for the season. I guess there are so many mediocre teams in the AFC that if the Titans went out, maybe there's a chance the Titans could make the playoffs. But all the teams that are those mediocre teams that are competing for playoff spots are Indianapolis and Pittsburgh and teams you've already lost to. So the season's over. So winning and losing, who cares? But all right now we can ask for this holiday season in which Santa has given the Titans a lump of coal is hope. That's it. And the quarterback gives us hope. Because yesterday, Will Levis won that football game. And I was sitting there today thinking, when was the last time the quarterback won the game for the Titans? Not the quarterback was a part of it, not Derrick Henry and the quarterback, not A.J. Brown and the quarterback. When's the last time the quarterback won you the football game? Where the quarterback said, put it on me, we're going to go win the game. The end of the 21 season against the Texans? Maybe. And that was in the midst of a bad season from Tannehill. I was thinking today, and again, I didn't go through each again. We may have to go back to that 2019 game against Kansas City that was equally as fakakta as this one last night that really kick-started that turnaround in 2019 in which the quarterback basically looked at the team and said, put it on my back, I will take you there. And when I looked at the mistakes Levis made yesterday, because Levis made a lot of mistakes, but when I looked at the mistakes Levis made, I was reminded of conversations we used to have on this show. When Floyd would talk about Mariota, and one thing that he kept saying was Mariota can't give the other team points. Brady can give the other team points. Ben can give the other team points. Brett Favre can give the other team points. Those guys can give the other team points because they'll make up for it. So Brett might throw 2 interceptions, but Brett will throw 3 touchdowns. Brady might throw a pick 6, but Brady will throw 3 touchdowns, and he will make up for the mistakes with which he's made. Will Levis is a rookie, and he gave the Dolphins 14 points. Now, the screen pass that was intercepted, I thought was a stupid call, and I thought Skoronski did a bad guy on his, did a bad job on his guy. But again, Levis was the one responsible for throwing the ball, and Levis needs to dirt it in that instance. I also thought the pitch play to Henry was stupid. We're doing running a pitch, trying to, hey, we're going to trick him. We're going to run the option pitch to Henry, whatever. But again, those were Levis's problems. Those were Levis's mistakes, and Levis made up for them. That's what great quarterbacks do. Great quarterbacks put teams on their back. Now look, no great quarterback can play without any receivers or an offensive line. That's why some of you are probably going to say, DeAndre had a big role in this. Of course he did. Tajay Spears had a big role in this. Absolutely. Brady needed Gronk. Manning needed Harrison, Reggie Wayne. You need a receiver. Montana needed Jerry Rice, the best receiver that ever lived. But at the end of the day, the great quarterbacks in those spots are the guys that you want with the ball in their hands at the end of the game, and they can look in the huddle and they can say, I will take us to the end zone. Just like Joe Montana did against the Bengals in the Super Bowl when he ran in the huddle and said, guys, I got it. Just like Tom Brady did when in their second Super Bowl, Rodney Harrison, who wasn't on the first Super Bowl team, started planning with Ty Law what they should do if the game goes to overtime, to which Ty Law said, this game's not going to overtime. We have Tom Brady. That's what Levis did last night. Now, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves and sit here and say, Titans have a franchise quarterback, because it's way too early for that. Way, way, way too early. Vince Young won games as a rookie, was Rookie of the Year. I mean, I'm not even willing to go there on Stroud. Mariota had a performance the week after Ken Wisenhunt got fired. The Titans went on the road to New Orleans, and Mariota had one of the best performances of his career in an overtime victory against Drew Brees and the Saints. So I'm not going to tell you that last night means Will Levis is a franchise quarterback. Will Levis is the guy for the Titans on to the promised land, I'm not going to say that, because I don't know that. It's too early. Just like it's too early to call Bryce Young a bust, just like it's too early to say that C.J. Stroud has ascended to greatness. When he didn't have Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, and Nico Collins on Sunday against a good Jets defense, he didn't look like a franchise quarterback. So it's early. But again, the one thing that can be gained in an utterly depressing season that could have been easily avoided if the Titans had had one shred of humility in this offseason, one shred of humility with their coaching staff, the one thing to take away is hope. That's it. The Titans are kind of like the myth of Pandora's box, right? Her father Zeus gives her a box, tells her not to open it. She does everything that's bad goes into the world. But she closed it just in time to leave hope. This has been a terrible season. The offense is awful. Derrick Henry is having his worst season that I can remember because he's got nowhere to run. They've got one wide receiver. The special teams have been abysmal. They just fired the special teams coach, and by the way, blocked a kick yesterday. Funny, all we've been doing is bitching about when's the last time they block a kick. You got the coach bent over at the waist on the sidelines looking like he's about to throw up into a toilet. This has been an atrocious season. You're getting crushed in the division. All three teams have passed you. All three teams have young quarterbacks. The AFC's wide open. It's been awful. But the one thing to take away from it is hope. And last night, Will Levis gave us hope. Will Levis gave us hope that he can be the franchise quarterback of the Tennessee Titans. Not that he will be, not that we know, but that he can be. A lot of you didn't like Will Levis when he was picked. And for whatever reason you didn't like him, that's your business. Whether it's because he went to Kentucky and he didn't go to UT, I think there's some of that. Chad. If it's because you didn't think he played well enough in college, if you don't like the selfies and the mayonnaise, and that's fine. But when they picked him, I said right then and there, hey, this kid's going to make or break this administration. Either he's going to make Vrabel and make Carthon, or he's going to get him fired, one way or another. And at least right now, there's hope. That doesn't mean that he's going to be the guy. There was hope with Vince Young. There was hope with Mariota. I don't think there was ever hope with Jake Locker. But there's real hope here. I mean, that was some get on my back, boys. I will carry you to the promised land stuff last night on national TV against a team that going into the game was first in the AFC. Granted, their best player got hurt early in the game. And he is by far their best player and honestly might be the most valuable player in the NFL in Tyreek because Tua sucks. And I'll say this right now. They kept showing Dan Marino on the TV broadcast last night. And at one point, Chris Fowler, who was horrible calling the game. I don't know if you guys felt the same way I did. But Fowler was like, Dan Marino, he's led some fourth quarter comebacks when Tua got the ball at the end of the game. You know, like it's so stern. And I'm thinking, Dan also knows what it's like to be absolutely crapped on draft day. Dan knows what it's like to have all these teams that you think should be investing in you as a quarterback sit there and say, nah, we'd rather go with the defensive tackle like his hometown Steelers did. Nah, we'd rather go with Ken O'Brien or Todd Blackledge or Tony Eason. And I wonder if Dan saw some of that in Will Levis. But there was no question to me last night who the most talented quarterback on the field was, and there was no question who the better quarterback was, and it was your guy. So it's still early, and I caution everybody, and I've been doing this the whole time. They drafted him, you hated him. I said, hey, I like him, but we'll see. He goes off against the Falcons, you love him. I said, we'll see. Struggles some of these games on the road. I said, we'll see. But right now, there's been infinitely more positive than there has been negative. The things that Levis doesn't do well right now, I think they can coach around. They're going to have to get a little bit better on the coaching staff in order to do that. Though I do like the quarterbacks coach, Charles London. But they're going to have to get around some of that. But, I mean, last night was a full-on display of it. Whatever it is, it was on full display. Tua doesn't have it. Will Levis did last night. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. I also said this yesterday, that if the Titans were going to find a way to win, I don't know what to think when it comes to the afterlife, right? I mean, I hope. I don't know. I sometimes think, that the old man's looking down on all of us in the football team and everything else. But I said yesterday, if the Titans win, that Frank Wycheck might have to perform some angels in the outfield like miracles for this team. Kind of felt that way at times last night. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Your reaction to last night's game, again, in which I thought you saw it from your quarterback. He wasn't perfect. It doesn't mean he's a franchise guy yet, but I think you saw it. And that is a very encouraging and optimistic sign. 615-737-1025. Ian, we haven't done this in a while. Well, I guess we did it after the Carolina game, but it kind of felt like, what's coming up next?
We got some game balls.
Game balls, and this was hard for me to do. We'll do those coming up next. And, of course, your phones. 615-737-1025 on a Titans Monday, which is actually a Tuesday. Live from Bridgestone Arena at Stillman and Company on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
2 yards here to keep the game alive here. Tua in traffic. He'll be brought down in Tennessee. He's going to secure an incredible, improbable comeback victory and win for the road on the first time this year. Unreal. Landry, who was a factor in the fourth quarter, got to the quarterback, and this crowd is absolutely stunned the way this is finished.
Who saw that one coming last night? I mean, even the Mannings. I went back after the game was over. I watched into the Manning cast, and the Mannings were like, dude, get up the field. You don't need to go out. What are you? They were going crazy at the end of the game. And boy, Tua, he stinks. Well, but again, this isn't Miami radio, so we'll get to Tua at some point. I know they've got like a small station there in Miami, 560, that does sports. I don't think there's like real sports talk radio in Miami. So maybe Tua, is unscathed in all of this. All right, time to give out the game balls. This was very hard for me. Sometimes it's hard because there might be a guy here or there, or sometimes like the Carolina game, there might not be anybody to give a game ball to. This one was hard because, Ian, what is the rule when it comes to game balls?
What do you mean? You have to make an impact? You have to win?
Well, how many do we give away?
Oh, one offense, one defense, one special teams.
That was very difficult. I thought about using my one game every season in which everybody gets a game ball, but I decided not to do that because too many guys screwed up last night.
It's a borderline game for that. But
I can't give Eric Guerra a game ball for last night.
He had a couple of decent defensive reps, but
he did have one where he tackled the guy or pushed the guy out of bounds or something that I wrote in my notes. Good play by him, but I can't give him a game ball. And I can't give Jack Gibbons a game ball. Holy crap, he sucks. There's just too many guys I can't give game balls to. Offense, DeAndre Hopkins gets a game ball. And I know you're going to say, wait a minute, what about Levis? But DeAndre had 124 in the air. He had a great catch at the end of the first half, which Louis Riddick can shut the hell up about OPI. I mean, it was a little tug of the arm that you had to basically have super slow-mo replay in order to review. And then Louis Riddick didn't say anything 2 plays later when they tackled DeAndre in the end zone on third down. DeAndre was the man last night in the final drive. All the big plays, for the most part, went to DeAndre throughout the game. The big-time plays where they moved the ball down the field. DeAndre had a 45er. I think he had a 28er or something like that. DeAndre was awesome, and he was the best receiver on the field last night, outplaying Jalen Waddle. Tyreek doesn't count because Tyreek was hurt. So DeAndre Hopkins gets a game ball. And I got to tell you, I had 3 guys that I wanted to give a game ball to who I just couldn't give it to over DeAndre. Levis, Spears, and Jalen Duncan. And the only reason I say Jalen Duncan is because I really don't remember Jalen Duncan screwing up. And I think offensive linemen are like umpires in baseball. If I don't remember a call you made or know your name, that must mean that you're good. And I saw some plays where Skoronski screwed up. Radens can't not stay onside. Brewer snapped the ball high again. They got worked on a stunt, twists, and games on the interior. I know Duncan jumped off sides one time, but other than that, I thought Jalen Duncan, for a 6th-round rookie who's probably a guard, I thought Jalen Duncan was so unnoticeable that we got to give him his due. But he doesn't get a game ball. It goes to DeAndre. Defense, Harold Landry. I don't know how you can get 3 sacks in a game and not get a game ball. He was excellent last night. He was in the backfield. He was all over Tua. He had 3 sacks and the game winner. He gets a game ball. 2 other guys that I thought about giving it to. I thought Autry was excellent last night, and Roger McCreary, who, one thing I kept noticing, when the Dolphins tried to run the ball to the edge, McCreary got there every time and made them turn up, which is the job of that guy. The job of that guy is not necessarily to make the tackle. It's not to shoot into the backfield and try to get a 3-yard loss. It is to keep that guy from turning the corner. Jack Gibbons, for whatever reason, probably because he's too slow, Jack Gibbons can't do that. But McCreary yesterday was excellent at it. I thought McCreary played great, so I put him on there. But Harold Landry, 3 sacks, he gets a game ball. Special teams was hard last night. I got to give it to Danico Autry because he blocked a kick. You're won by 1 point. He blocked a kick. We've been begging for the Titans to block kicks. We've been wondering, when's the last time you blocked a meaningful kick? And there was Danico blocking the kick. That being said, Ty Zentner last night, this unknown punter, was fabulous. To me, Stonehouse, and I want to say like his net, which is the number that they brag about all the time, his net is somewhere in the 40s, like 47, something like that. 5 punts for Zentner last night, a net of 44.8. 2 inside the 20. And he did have the one that was a touchback that, again, get this guy up off the street. Not exactly expecting him to be Craig Hentrick putting the ball down at the 3-yard line. I thought he was fabulous. But Danico gets a game ball. Because, again, he blocked a kick. And because Danico was so good on defense that it's like, well, I'm giving Harold the defensive game ball, so I'm giving Danico the special teams game ball. But I could go on and on about those other guys that I just talked about, except for Duncan, who I can go on and on about the fact that I didn't notice him at all last night, which is exactly what I want out of my offensive line. I don't want to ever pay attention to you. I want to notice you when you're not there so that I realize, man, things were good for a long time when Ben Jones was on that offensive line. That's what I want. And Jalen Duncan gave us all the ability last night to not have to worry about left tackle for the first time this season. Now, that does not mean that I think Jalen Duncan is a starting left tackle in the NFL. And I haven't even watched a tape, so I wouldn't be able to tell you what Duncan did or didn't do. But I didn't notice him last night, and that is a step in the right direction. So those are our game balls. Ian, you have any problem with the game balls?
I'm glad you mentioned the punter.
Oh, he punted. He was awesome.
He was pretty good. He had one touchback, I think, that was kind of, would have liked to see him better, but that's asking a little bit too much. Nothing crazy on the holds. They made all their kicks. So, yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid list.
If Guerra could stay away from the football, then the special teams coach would get a game ball too.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to blame him for that because for 2 reasons. Number one, Guerra was Ackerman's returner. Also, after the Jacksonville game, I asked Vrabel if I was like, why can this team never find a punt returner? And at the press conference, Vrabel was like, I think Eric's doing a good job. He just fumbled that one ball, but he's no. No. 615-737-1025. We're to your phones next here on a Titans Monday on a Tuesday, live from Bridgestone Arena here on Stillman & Company, 102.5-106.3 The Game. Let me tell all the fine folks out there, make your silly underdog picks for your chance to win weekly prizes at theGameNashville.com or the 102.5 The Game app. Silly Underdog Picks is presented by Volunteer Hose and Gasket.
Haley's punt is away, and Guerrero decides to field it and muffs it, and Miami takes over at the 6. Elijah Campbell has the recovery, and the Titans special teams gaffes continue. Is that going to be a game-costing mistake? My goodness. Pitch for Henry's fumbled, goes back, scramble for it, another turnover. Bradley Chubb has the football, and the Titans have just self-destructed in the final couple minutes here after battling so hard.
It doesn't have to be that hard, but I'm proud of the character of this football team. Competing and then having it go in a different direction real quick, and then coming back and getting stops late, and being able to move the football late in the game, score, and was really proud of these guys.
Let me say this. I don't think I have ever seen the Titans come back to win a game like that before. Now, I've seen the Titans have these miraculous comebacks in games. I mean, I remember the 2002 game against the Giants, the 2006 game against the Giants. 2002, that was where Steve McNair really became. We talk about Levis and how last night he showed it. The 2002 season, specifically that Giants game, and if Derek is in his car right now listening, I think he knows exactly what I'm talking about. That 2002 game at the Giants was when Steve McNair became it. Like, there's a difference between showing it and being it. Like, Joe Burrow is it. And that was when McNair became it. But he didn't throw an interception in that game. Like, they didn't give the game to the Giants and say, here you go, Giants. I mean, they gift wrapped 21 points to the Dolphins. Santa would have been envious of their giving ability. The way that they just pissed that away last night. And I've seen them, again, blow games or do dumb things and overcome it late into the game where they need one possession or something like that. Where they make a mistake and they're down by 4 points and they go down the field to score a touchdown. Not where they just hand the other team 14 points at the end of the game and say, here you go, and then still come back to win. I've never seen that before from the Titans. It kind of reminded me of a Monday Night Football game years ago, which happened, I think, on Yom Kippur, when Peyton Manning played the Buccaneers. And it was such a blowout, and Peyton Manning came back and ended up winning the game, that they had to let fans back into the stadium. That's what it kind of reminded me of last night. Could not believe it. I also thought it was crazy when I went back and watched the game last night that Chris Fowler was talking after the second touchdown, and he was like, oh, the Titans just absolutely need a miracle now. And it really didn't take like a miracle. Levis just chucked the ball down the field. I mean, maybe the pass protection was a miracle because the Titans pass protected better on the road than they have all year. But it wasn't, and I wasn't even mad. Like, yeah, I didn't like the fact that the Titans had fumbled the ball, and I didn't like the fact that they had pitched it back to them. And I was mad at the call. I was mad at Levis's pitch, and I was mad at Henry's inability to fall on it. But it wasn't like I was sitting there jumping up and down or screaming or like, oh, no, fire Vrabel, this, that. I mean, I guess I was sitting there saying, like, okay, there were encouraging signs from this game. It's disappointing that they found a way to lose, but, it is what it is. And instead, they ended up winning the game. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com at 615-737-1025. And, of course, your phones. Let's start off with a text where one texter says, talking about who's responsible for winning, says, that was not just Will Levis who won the Titans the game, texter says. The defense needs to get credit as well. Let me just say this about the defense. I'm glad that the defense held up inside the red zone. I'm glad they did. Until the end of the game when they really needed to stop and they didn't get one. But the reason the defense played well is because Tyreek Hill is that entire team. I put this on the grid yesterday. I don't think I said it on the show, Ian. But yesterday I had in the grid for a topic about Tyreek Hill that when I look at what Kansas City is right now without him, and I know they won the Super Bowl last year, but you can smoke and mirrors things for a little bit. They had Juju Smith-Schuster. They had some gadgets involved for Tony. But over the course of an extended period of time, like multiple seasons, the bread and butter has to operate correctly. And so I said this yesterday, that outside of Mahomes and Burrow and Lamar Jackson, I think Tyreek might be the fourth most important player in the NFL. Just like I think Aaron Donald was more important to the Rams on their championship run than Matthew Stafford was, I think Tyreek is more important, certainly than Tua, but I think Tyreek is more important than a lot of these other quarterbacks. I mean, Tyreek wins more games for his team because that is an average to below average 500 team without him. Tua sucks. He wins more games for his team than Justin Herbert wins for his team. He wins more games for his team than Trevor Lawrence wins for his team. So when you talk about, give the defense credit, I can't go there because if Tyreek had been in there, I don't think the defense would have played that well. One texter says, Jared, can you admit you were wrong last week when you said the Titans were going to get destroyed versus the Dolphins? Absolutely. But again, a lot of that impending doom was predicated on Tyreek Hill. And look, you didn't play with Jeffrey Simmons. So I'm not sitting here making excuses for the Dolphins. And I think Tua is going to be due a contract soon. He was in the same class with Burrow and Herbert, and they both signed. And I would not give Tua that kind of money because I don't think he's that good. But it's like if you want to be a franchise quarterback, you got to find a way to win a game like that without your best player. But no, I thought the Titans were going to get completely blown out early in the game when the Titans went 3 and out. The Dolphins moved right down the field only to fumble the football, and then the Titans just give them the 7 points back. I mean, I was like, yep. I was like, this is going to be bad. Vrabel had that look on his face where he was bent over at the waist and he looked like he was about to throw up on the field. I mean, that one right there. Look, I thought impending doom was real. Texter says, do you have the soundbite of Fowler saying that the Titans will drop to 4-9? I don't. I also don't have the soundbite. Ian, did you hear this? Where he said he called Laura Rutledge Laura Ingram last night?
I did not hear that, no.
I'm like, dude, she's on your broadcast team. And I guess we know which way Chris Fowler votes, right? I mean, Laura Ingram. We go down to Laura Ingram, who's down there with Mike Vrabel. Mike, what do you think about the open border at the southern part of the country? Mike, what do you think about Obamacare? That's what Laura Ingram would be asking. Who knows what Vrabel would say, by the way. And you want to piss a bunch of people off. See how he reacts to those questions. Texter said, if I was a Titans coach, I'd never field another punt again. The other team is saying that you're not good enough to get a first down, and we're going to give you the ball. Just let them give it to you. That comes from Lenny. We'll get to the special teams and the punter in a second. Boy, a lot of you want to talk about the punter, apparently. Texter says, who was the guy on the sidelines that Levis chest bumped? It looks like Levis hurt that guy. I think that was Tim Kelly, right?
Looked like it.
Yeah, I think it was Tim Kelly. Now, oh my God, people got so mad at me last night on Twitter because I tweeted out when Levis went crazy on the sidelines. I'm like, dude, chill out. Gotta act like you've been there before. It's still a ball game.
Even though he hadn't been there before?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, acting like you've been there before is not something that you say to Tom Brady. In fact, the only time that you say act like you've been there before is when you're talking to somebody who hasn't, in fact, been there before. But I was like, dude, chill out. And people got so mad. Ian, if you could, Kirk Cousins was on the Manning cast, and he was talking about Levis's excitement when Levis was jumping up and down on the sidelines. And then, of course, they started talking about Levis's arms because Levis was fully flexed out when he was doing it. You could see the veins popping out of his biceps. And this is what Kirk Cousins said in live time.
Will's getting a little too happy for a minute 49 left. A little too fired up right now. A lot of football left. Yeah, there's a little too much time left. He may get the ball back one more time.
Yeah. I mean, he's sitting there saying dude, chill out. And then I think even Levis said after the game, he's like, yeah, I think I got I think I got a little too over the top there. So make of that what you will. But again, Levis has things that he does, and this is just a small example of it, right? Like, I'm happy that Levis is excited. I'm happy that he's got emotion. But as the quarterback, it's just like him yelling at DeAndre Hopkins the other day in front of everybody or throwing his arms up like, what the hell, DeAndre? It's like, dude, chill out. It's okay. Like, as a quarterback, there's got to be a more CEO-like approach, a grown-up-like approach. Because there's just so much to deal with as quarterback that it's always got to be like a steady hand out there. But Levis will learn. Again, these are all teaching moments as far as Will Levis is concerned. 615-737-1025. We're back to your phones. Plus, a lot of you want to weigh in on the punt thing yesterday. I want to talk about special teams yesterday as a whole. We'll do that next. Hey, join me, Chris, and Derek live at Teddy's Tavern this Sunday at 9:30 for the award-winning pregame show, Titans and Texans. Ian, do we know if C.J. Stroud's out?
He's in concussion protocol. I don't know. So, they won't say that until Friday, probably.
What do you think?
Some have been able to clear, like Derek Carr has been able to clear a little bit for the Saints at times, and then there's quarterbacks who have not been able to clear.
I want to see
50-50.
Stroud versus Levis on Sunday. Like, that's entertaining football to me. And I know we'll get it in a couple of weeks in Houston, but I want to see Stroud versus Levis the way Levis played last night. Our award-winning pregame show is presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Beast Unleashed.
44-yard attempts. (12 of 15 in the season). And it's blocked at the line. Titans trying to field it. Back down at the 14-yard line. And the return comes out across the 20 by Monty Hooker. And that's the kind of special teams play that a new man in charge likes to see made. So Tennessee will take over. They are hanging right with Miami Dolphins.
They blocked the kick. They did it. Oh my God, I was so happy in that moment when they blocked that kick. I was sitting there and I felt like a contestant on Maury Povich when they did the paternity test and I wasn't the father. And I got up, I told you. Oh my God, I was so happy. And then they got this punter off the street, this Scarbini guy out there, and he's kicking the crap out of the ball. And he's pinning the guys on the sideline, and they're getting, a 2-yard return. And I'm like, I told you. Then Eric Garror tried to field that punt. I don't know what he was thinking. That's what I call, we were talking about the hospital balls, like the one that Tua threw over the middle yesterday for Jalen Waddle, and Amani Hooker almost eviscerated him. Well, that is what I call a Dr. Phil ball. I came up with that term when Vince Young was the quarterback of the Titans. And what I mean by a Dr. Phil ball is that it's as the play's going on and they're showing the replay, I just hear Dr. Phil in my head going, now, what were you thinking when you threw that pass? Because Vince Young used to throw passes like there's two defenders standing there like with their hands like, please throw us the ball, like they're in front of a jugs machine, and Vince would just throw it to him. And I'm like, what were you thinking? So as that ball's up in the air and Eric Garror's going over there to field it, and I see him go near it, and I'm like, get away from the ball! And then the guy tries to field it, and I'm like, oh, no. And then they showed Tom Quinn on the sideline, and Tom Quinn ripped his headset off and was going to chuck it on the ground and then didn't. And I said, I feel your pain, brother. I feel your pain. But that's not your fault. For two reasons. Number one, Garror is Ackerman's returner, and I'm sure that Tom Quinn had so much to fix during the week that punt returner was like, yeah, dude catches it, whatever. And number two, that's Vrabel's punt returner. Because I asked Vrabel after the Jacksonville game why this team can't figure out the punt returner. And like somebody in the mob, Vrabel, like Tony Soprano, vouched for him.
Mike, why can't this team figure out punt returner?
Yeah, I thought Eric's done a nice job. It's, I don't know. I thought he's caught him well. It'd be like saying every time, when Derek fumbled last year, it'd be like saying that, why can't we figure out, Derek, he fumbled. I think that's probably a little different than, catching him. It's not like we haven't gone through and had guys, catch the ball or, try out 5 or 6 different guys. I think that the fumble and the rake and I would probably say that's under the category of we have to do a better job of protecting the guy with the ball, and he knows that, but also not letting that guy, the long snapper who was talented and had 3 tackles, we have to do a better job of protecting the returner. And Eric's caught him. He'll continue to catch him, and ball security is critical.
Mm-hmm. So that was what Vrabel said a couple weeks ago. I'm going to give Vrabel the same response that he gave Garror when Garror was trying to plead his case about why he did what he did yesterday. I don't know if you guys read Vrabel's lips. Ian, did you read his lips?
I did. I can't remember what he said. Something about
he
I
said,
don't care.
He said it in a much more vulgar way.
Yes, there was a curse word in there.
That's how I feel in regards to Vrabel's long explanation after Garror fumbled that punt against Jacksonville and this. I don't give a what he said. I do not care. Figure it out. So I'm not going to put that on Tom Quinn because A, they blocked a kick. B, and a kick that won you the game because you lost, or excuse me, you won by 1 point. They punted well. You got to give Tom Quinn credit for. They found that guy off the street. And Caroline thinks he's hot. So I think the combination of those things, and he's not Craig Aukerman, make me feel very good about Tom Quinn and his special teams. 615-737-1025. Randy has a text into the text line that I am so fascinated by that really I'm not sure has anything to do with the game. But he says, quote, did you see the clip where the referee dropped his vape pen? That had the glass cartridge. Those are usually the ones that contain pure THC oil. THC is weed. Pure THC oil. Might be wrong, could be wrong, but based on experience, Randy says, it was the real deal. No, I did not see any of that. Did anybody else see that? I mean, I thought those referees last night were terrible. I thought they were horrible. In fact, I thought they were horrible on both sides. Like, I still don't know that Nick Westbrook-Akine false start that they didn't call. I don't know what the hell happened there. I don't even know what the rule is. And I when I was watching the Mannings, I saw, after the game, I turned on to the Mannings, and the Mannings were like, oh, yeah, this is where they're barking out the signals. And Kirk Cousins is like, I try to get them to make that call. And no, that's not what they did. They said the guy moved too quickly, which must be a point of emphasis because I'd never heard of this. And then they called it in the Thursday night game, the Patriots and the Steelers. And then, that one. Texter says Texter was not referring to the Tim Kelly chest bump. He was referring to the second one, which was Caleb Murphy. Good to know. Jack says, what's the point of telling him to chill out? No one told you to chill out when you were jumping up and down celebrating the trade of A.J. Brown on draft night. Actually, I was not. When they traded A.J. Brown, I was basically moderating the panel with Derek, Chris, and TD. And because it happened so fast, and there was a wide receiver, a first-round receiver still on the board, Treylon Burks, and a first-round tackle, Trevor Penning, was still on the board. Now, it seems to me like both players stink, but because, again, those guys were on the board, I said, well, do you take the tackle here? Because, again, tackle's an area of need, and it's tackle, and I know that you traded away a receiver, but I wasn't jumping up and down. Ultimately, I agreed with it, but I was not jumping up and down. I'm trying to think of, when the Titans have done something that's made me so happy. Oh, yeah, last week when they fired up. I'm kidding. Texter says the officials let him play last night. I thought the Titans were more physical. Levis damn near trucked Ramsey. That's not a penalty, Texter. I will say this. The ball, one of the worst missed calls of last night's game. Outside of the end zone, one on DeAndre they didn't call. On the ball that Levis threw deep to Spears, where Spears took 6 steps and then they knocked the ball out, and thank goodness the ball went out of bounds. But on that play, Dylan Radins just bear hugged the guy in front of him and picked him up. And I'm like, I'm pretty good at spotting holding, and I'm pretty good at spotting the difference between there's holding on every play and, yeah, they're going to throw a flag on that. And I saw it, and I'm like, holding. And then I saw the ball down the field, and I keep waiting for the little flag icon to pop up at the bottom of the screen, and it never did. And so then they go to commercial after the Spears play, and they showed us the replay where it was 1, 2, 3, 4, ball out. It's okay, that's going to be, ruled up catch. And so then I rewound when they went to commercial. I'm with my dad. I rewound it, and I'm like, you got to watch this hold on Dylan Radins. And my dad is the number one. They could call holding on every play guy. And he looked at it, and he chuckled because it was ridiculous. I thought the refs last night were terrible. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. I don't know if Mike Vrabel deserved to win last night the way he coached. But boy, did he need that. We'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios, Bridgestone Arena. The Predators tonight against the Philadelphia Flyers on Jewish Community Night. They will be lighting the menorah. Happy Hanukkah. We are very excited. And I know somebody who got a Hanukkah gift last night. Michael Richard Vrabel got a Hanukkah gift last night. And I'm going to say this. I do not know, like in my head, there are two things I don't know about last night's game. One is kind of the big picture on Vrabel. I don't know if Vrabel coached a very good game last night. Number two is I don't know, like it worked, but I don't know about the whole going for two thing last night. When they scored in a 14-point game and they scored and he's holding up two, I'm like, wait a minute. What?
It's the new school.
I was like, what? But I guess it worked. But here's the thing. Mike Vrabel needed that game last night. If I didn't know that Mike Vrabel hated me, I would say that just by the look of how he looks in the press conference on the sidelines, I almost want to be like, dude, are you okay? Like, you could see it on his face. He, again, was bent over. And I used to say, I used to call that the Vrabel constipation face, which we saw the first time in that road game at Denver in 2019 where he benched Mariota for Tannehill. But then we didn't see that for like another 4 years. And then all of a sudden, this has become like a tri-weekly event where they show Vrabel on the sidelines and he's bent over at the waist. And again, I used to call it the constipation face, but instead, he looks like somebody who had too much to drink that's standing in front of the toilet and is trying to heave it all out at one time. And it's like, dude, are you okay? And looking at Vrabel on the sideline. And so I can't decide if Vrabel coached well last night. I lean towards no. I think it was kind of more so Levis at the end of the game with some magic. Tyreek Hill's injury, in which I don't think the Titans would have had a prayer if Tyreek hadn't gotten hurt. And I think in some cases, like pure luck bailed him out last night. But he needed that victory. Had the Titans gotten blown out, as was expected, the noise would have been louder and louder today. I said yesterday on the pregame show, I said if they keep it close, if the Titans keep them close, I'll give them the Vanderbilt pat on the back, which is Vanderbilt plays Alabama. They keep it a close game. It's 3 points in the fourth quarter. They lose by 10. Good job, Vanderbilt. We don't say the same thing to Georgia. And I was going to say, like, if the Titans keep it close and then they lose at the end, I'll say, you know what? Good job, Titans. But the way the game played out, where Tyreek got hurt, where they muffed a freaking kick that their punt returner had no business going near, like, what the hell was he doing? What are we talking about? Why are you doing that? Like, again, I mean, that Eric Garror fumble right there was the definition of either you're coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. Like, there's just no way around it. I think that it would have been bad today. Like, from the fans and everything else. Like, I think it would have been bad. It would have been loud. It would have been angry. He probably doesn't handle those things very well at the press conferences. Instead, because they found a way to win last night, he can sit up there and make a joke about Levis not sliding and taking on those big hits, and he can use the S word, and everybody laughs. And it's like, yep, Vrabel, he's doing his thing. And again, I go back to this when it's like, man, I got to give credit where credit is due. And I got to look at it and say, good for you that they finally pulled a Vrabel special. Last night was a Vrabel special, and I can say that because I'm the one who invented the term Vrabel special. He goes for 2 at the end of the game, which I'm still not sure was a good idea or a bad idea, or I don't know. But the Titans end up winning. Can I help you? Okay. So, I mean, I will tell you that, again, like where I sit, I don't think Vrabel coached very well last night. I mean, I look at the screen that they dialed up that ended up being returned for a touchdown by the Dolphins, and sure, Skoronski should have knocked that guy out of the way, and sure, Levis probably should have seen him and dirted the ball, and it shouldn't have been an interception. But the reason it was an interception was because Miami knew what you were going to do, because you do it all the time. On the first play of the game, I turned to my dad, and I said, hand off to Derek, loss of 1, 2nd and 11. And on cue, hand off to Derek, loss of 1, 2nd and 11. And did you see the guy who made the tackle on that play? David Long Jr. And there were a lot of plays last night where David Long Jr. ended up making the play. And it was like, yeah, David Long's like the rest of it. He knows exactly what they're going to do because we all watch the Titans. David Long knows the Titans, and David Long's like, oh, yeah, this is one of those plays. They threw incomplete on first down at 2nd and 10, and Wesco and Henry are in. They're going to run the ball. I'm going to go make the tackle 3 yards in the backfield. So that's not good coaching. But again, we can all debate whether or not what was good coaching. We'll get to this in a second. I thought what happened at the end of the first half yesterday, with what I can't get over that. I mean, that, poof. But they won. It's like the going for 2. I don't know if that was the right call. I'm sure there will be some analytic website, something or another, that tells me it was the right call. The analytics always say going for it is the right call. Be 4th and 14 from your own 20, and it's like, go for it. So I'm sure it'll say that it was the right call. I don't know. I'm just telling you that it worked. So because it worked, everybody's happy. They won. So because they won, everybody's happy. And he needed it. Not only did he need it because it was on national TV, not only did he need it because during the game he looked like he needed some crackers and ginger ale. Not only did he need it because next week is Houston, and you know that this ownership group overreacts to losses against Houston, but he needed it, and he got it. And so today, everybody's happy, and I've always said this about football, which is amazing. In baseball, you can play a great game, bring your closer in the 9th inning, he blows the save, you lose, and everyone's like, well, I guess, Rodriguez, we can't trust him in the 9th inning anymore. It's never like, the manager screwed up, the third baseman in the 4th inning booted the ball, and he screwed up, But that's football. You lose, and we remember all the bad stuff. Sean Murphy bunting yesterday, just getting obliterated by Cedric Scarbini Wilson out there. But we don't care today because the Titans won. That's how I feel about the coaching. I'm not sure it was good. In fact, I kind of think it wasn't. But he won. He officially got the Vrabel special. He needed the Vrabel special. He got it. Good for him. Now, the end of the first half, because this has got to be discussed. This was felonious, what the Titans coaching staff did. We'll get to that coming up next. Speaking of the end of the first half and the end of the second half, the Titans scored, which means you get a free, if you're a Twice Daily Rewards member, you get a free half sub in the app today from Twice Daily. Congratulations to you. How awesome is that? Titans have barely hit on these almost all year, and they end up hitting in both halves. That's right. The 12 days of Christmas are back at Twice Daily. Get ready for 12 days of discounts, freebies, and contests to win prizes and gift cards as well. Download the app and register today. And again, Twice Daily's made-to-order offerings allow you to get exactly what you want when you want it. Customize your sandwiches with your preferred meals and meats and cheeses, and get bagels with all the fixings and have snacks prepared for you the second you order. You make it yours, and they will make it fresh. Twice Daily has you covered with made-to-order selections for breakfast, lunch, and everything in between. And again, if the Titans score at the end in the last 2 minutes of either half on Sunday, and you're a loyalty member in the app, you'll get a free half sub on Monday. Like if you're a loyalty member today, you'll get a free half sub today because of what they did. That's Twice Daily. Twice Daily, fresh all day.
Hopkins and the concentration to bring him in. I think it was a 45-yarder. Do you ever just stop and say, like, man, this dude is crazy?
Yeah, that was the one at the 2 minute at the end of the half. And he tells me sometimes, hey man, just throw it up to me. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Sometimes that's okay, sometimes it's not. But each and every week, I feel like I'm slowly believing that sometimes it is okay just to throw it up to him. But got to be smart with it. And he had him beat, and I think I underthrew it a little bit. And for him to just have the body control, just to kind of catch it or track it and catch it, he's special in that respect. So I'm glad that we were able to get him the ball as much as we did today.
By the way, that throw at the end of the half from Levis to Hopkins, the one that Louis Riddick couldn't stop complaining about, that was an unbelievable throw and an even better catch. Now, the end of the first half, look, I'm reactive on the radio. I think like in real life, I'm not overly reactive. I do hear this a lot where people say, oh my God, what's Jared like? What's Jared? And I'd like to think that I'm the same in real life as I am on the radio. But for some reason, I don't necessarily think that people always feel that way. I don't know, Ian, do you get asked that question a lot? What's Jared like?
Sometimes, yeah.
And what do you say? Do you say he's like he is on the radio, or do you say he's not like he is on the radio?
Well, no, I don't think you're totally like how you are on the radio. But, I mean, for the most part, you're the same person, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I think so.
So let me just say this. And I always talk about, if I own the team, if I owned the football team last night and Mike Vrabel did what he did before the end of the first half when he ran that football 3 times after they blocked that field goal, it'd have been very, very hard for me not to go down there and fire him on the spot. I mean, I'm sitting there watching the game last night. You block a kick for the first time in 1 trillion years. You block a kick, and it's a 7-7 game. You've just gone right down the field and scored a touchdown. You block a kick with 1:51 to go and 3 timeouts. Henry up the middle for 5. I don't have a problem with Henry running on first down in that case because you got your timeouts, so don't get away from the offense with what you do. Henry right in for 3. Then they called Radens for a hold, so it didn't count. So instead of 3rd and 2, it's now 2nd and 15. Henry right tackle for 1 yard, Spears up the middle for 7 yards, Zentner on to punt. And I went crazy. I didn't go crazy last night when Guerra fumbled the punt. I didn't go crazy last night when they threw that pitch to Henry and the Dolphins recovered it. I didn't even go crazy on the pick 6. I was disappointed on the pick 6. I was disappointed in the quarterback. I was disappointed in the left guard. I was disappointed in the offensive coordinator all together because I think they all screwed up. But I didn't go crazy. I understand how those things happen. But Mike Vrabel at the end of the half, again, babying the young quarterback is ridiculous. You want to baby him in the Steelers game? Fine. You're 3-4. You don't want him to throw the ball to the other team because the Steelers have no offense. So you want to go to the locker room up by 3 against Pittsburgh? Fine. I probably wouldn't have done that, but I get it. He misses the throw to Spears that would have been a touchdown. So you say, you know what? Instead of Levis giving away free points, let's kick the field goal, get out of here. Fine. The end of the game against the Steelers. You want to try to run the ball because you know you're going to throw it on 4th down. Didn't love the play call. Levis missed Phillips, who was wide open over the middle. Fine. But last night you were 4-8. The season was over. The season is over. You're not making the playoffs. You've already screwed yourself. In large part, it's Vrabel's fault that you're not making it to the playoffs with his atrocious coaching staff and his horrible collaboration of an offseason with Rand Carthon. So it's already your fault that you're not going to the playoffs or that you're not in the mix in an AFC playoff where everybody except you and the Patriots are in the hunt. Joe Flacco's quarterbacking a team, and they're in the hunt. The Raiders are in the hunt. Zach Wilson is in the hunt. You're not. The season is over. So if Levis throws an interception, then Levis throws an interception. In fact, these are teaching moments. This is why you still play these games. This is why I still want to win these games, because I think winning is important, and I think it's important to evaluate the young guys, but also to be able to teach the young guys. Hey, in this decision, in this instance, don't do this instead. But instead, softy Mike Vrabel turns into a little weenie at the end of the half. It has done this now 3 times. Last week against the Colts, and I think Indy ended up scoring. This week against the Dolphins, they ended up getting the ball back. And so I'm like, Mike, quit babying the quarterback. If you were a team that was still in playoff contention, absolutely. Take it slow, be easy, don't put the kid in harm's way, but not this. This is how we learn about the quarterback. This is how you teach the quarterback. Hey, man, I know you really wanted to make a play by the end of the half, but when you throw that ball into triple coverage and it gets popped in the air and intercepted, like, we can't have that going forward, so don't do it. But now we know that that's something that we need to work on with you. But you're not going to know if you don't let the quarterback throw the ball. And then I love the fact that the Titans ended up getting it back, and with the Titans ended up getting it back, and with 28 seconds, Will Levis goes 69 yards. In 28 seconds. 6 plays, 69 yards, 28 seconds. Made Vrabel look like a fool. Let the quarterback throw the ball. Well, I mean, what was he? And what's funny is TD asked him after the game about this. And I actually, TD was supposed to come on the pregame show yesterday, and he didn't. And then he texted me at like 1 in the morning and was like, hey, I just got Ian's text. I'm ready to come on or whatever. I'm like, TD, we sent that at like 3 o'clock yesterday. That was, whatever. But I did tell TD, I said, good question. Because when you win, people forget about stuff like this. And so TD asked Vrabel after the game about what went down before the half, why you ran the ball, and then all of a sudden decided that you were going to throw the ball. And I want you to listen to Vrabel's answer, and you tell me if you believe that Vrabel is actually telling the truth.
That drive after the block field goal, ran the ball 3 times, you won, and then you got the ball back and you took shots. What changed from that drive to that drive?
Well, just, again, I think that their ability to run the football and our success is eventually going to be very critical. And so being able to also, throw some shots and move the football and protect is also something. And, I think that's just the way that the game, Tim felt like we needed to kind of mix it up there and change it up. And, I wasn't having a whole lot of success, to their credit, in a run game.
I mean, he's sitting there basically saying on the TD thing, he's like, yeah, we need to run the ball and we need to be able to throw shots. And, so then we just decided, Tim said maybe we'd change it up a little bit. And, there you go. Stop babying the quarterback. Hopefully this was a lesson. The last 2 weeks at the end of the half against Indianapolis and against Miami, hopefully these have been a lesson. Stop babying the quarterback. I get it the Pittsburgh game. I don't like it in the Indianapolis game, but okay. But not now. The season's over. Stop worrying about winning and start worrying about doing what's in the best interest of the team long term. And running the football there when everybody knows that's what you're going to do, because that's what you do every game, doesn't do you any favors. And then Levis made him look like a fool the way they moved the ball down the field. And what a beautiful throw by Levis and a beautiful catch by DeAndre. I don't care what Louis Riddick says. One texter says, Jared, did you see Vrabel and his body language before, during, and after the game? He was nearly a completely different man. Something has changed there. He looked more checked out than I have ever seen him. I study body language, a texter says. He was different. My personal opinion was that it was apathy and less meddling from him and the coordinator's business made the team better, completely to his amazement. Your thoughts? I'm not sure I saw that in Vrabel's body language. I will say this. I think Vrabel enjoyed doing his press conference today a lot more than he has on these Mondays after they've lost, where it's like very defensive and very, and Vrabel can be more reflexive. Yeah. More natural with how he answers some of these questions. As far as his body language, I don't know. Somebody texted in and said, lay off, man, we won. I'm like, see, that's not, again, that game last night that you won, I do think it's good that you won. You know, there's some people that are like, oh, man, our draft status, I don't care about that. I think it's good that you won. I think it, teaches your young guys how to win, or sets the expectation of winning, or just gives them the idea in their head that they can win, which I think is very important. But the idea of lay off somebody because they won, so does that mean that the coaches should sit there and go over the game tape with the players and say, well, who cares, Sean Murphy Bunting, if you screwed that up? We won. Or who cares, Tajay Spears, if you fumbled the ball there and everybody was lucky that it went out of bounds? We don't need to work on that at all. No, we need to go over those things. Coaching's no different. 615-737-1025. We'll get back to your phone, 615-737-1025. Something went in the Titans' favor yesterday that I have never seen and do not understand, and no matter what Gene Steratore or John Perry or any of these schmageggies that used to be referees say, I probably will never understand this. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to weigh in. Again, that's 615-737-1025. 1025, the game is teamed up with Mookie Betts' AIM Foundation to help underprivileged members of our community. You can email bids in now at enteryourbids@gmail.com for either the family package, which includes a Mookie Betts t-shirt, hats, miniature Dodger baseball bats, and Mookie Betts autographed baseballs, or the game day package, a $500 Southwest gift card, a Mookie Betts jerseys, Dodgers and Dad Gang hats, and 2 tickets to a Dodgers game in Los Angeles and a photo op with Mookie. Email bids in now at enteryourbids@gmail.com for that.
Get a first down to the 2 and not again. That was the receiver, Westbrook-Akine, who flinched. Another false start.
Lou, you kind of talked about it. The defensive line shifts for Miami. Do we have it where they shift? See that shift? That's what forces Westbrook-Akine to move. It's almost like what happened to Arden Key.
Reverse, yeah.
Delay game defense, number 92, for abrupt movement. That penalty supports half the distance to the goal, still second down.
So Sealer, who had the pick 6 early on, and a confused look from McDaniel, instead of backing him up 5.
Come on.
Half the distance.
So they're saying that was a sudden.
They're saying it was too sudden.
Right.
Which, I mean, that's. Yeah, okay.
Now this becomes a run play for me if I'm Tennessee.
Henry cuts it back, dives and scores, and Tennessee has tied it up with the PAT coming. Incredible rally.
There you go. There was the Nick Westbrook-Akine false start that I really thought was going to screw you up. Turned into a delay of game abrupt movement on the Dolphins. And I'm like, what? And the only reason I even know this is kind of a thing is because on Thursday Night Football, the Patriots and the Steelers did the same thing. The Steelers were going to punt. The Patriots jumped offside. They ended up blowing it dead. And they ended up calling like an illegal procedure or a something on the Steelers because the center moved his head. And Herb Street on the broadcast was just like Louis Riddick on that one. That's like, what? And so I've watched that like 6 times. I listened to the Mannings talk about it. And I'm not sure I've heard anything that makes any sense. Now, it ended up working out in the Titans' favor, so I don't think anybody's mad about it. But let me just use this opportunity to say, I don't understand at all any of these rules anymore about motion before the ball is snapped. I don't understand any of them. You know, I remember that it used to be that if you're offside flying at the quarterback and you might hit him, then you blow the play dead. Now sometimes guy jumps and they just blow the play dead, where I'm like, that should be a free play. Other times, like yesterday, the Dolphins did that thing where Tyreek Hill would start running sideways and they'd snap the ball and it would get you to jump because he was lined up, you know, off the line of scrimmage, but it looked like he was, you know, running his route. And so, of course, the defense sees that, pops up, and it's like, they got him. And it's like, wait a minute. Is this Canadian football or arena football? Like, are they allowed to, like, run right? What are we doing here? And then there was that. And I got to be honest with you, there's a lot of times when I'm watching games where I see, like, an offensive lineman rock back and, like, look backwards. And I'm like, how is that different than a flinch of the guy popping? Like, do you understand any of these rules, Ian?
Some yes, some no. They did call the unevaded quarterback offsides last night against the Titans. I believe it was Autry.
Autry?
Yeah. They called that one time, but they don't call that as much as they used to.
But he wasn't unabated to the quarterback there.
He was coming off the edge. It was borderline. And then, you know, it is hard to understand some of the penalties. I didn't think you could really motion. That was almost like arena football or something like that, or Canadian Football League kind of stuff with the movement. I didn't think you could do all the whole movement stuff. So, you know, it is tricky. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know the rules anymore. It worked out for the Titans. I was going to tell you, Nick Westbrook-Akine jumped off sides. That was a false start, and that ball should have been moved back 5 yards. And I don't know, you know, I know you had success in the red zone yesterday. I don't know at that point if you would have been able to get it. But that call took it from, man, this might be difficult for them to convert into, oh, yeah, they're going to score a touchdown here. And the Mannings thought, and again, they're not really listening to the sound, I think, but the Mannings were talking about how they thought it was the guy was barking out signals, and Kirk Cousins was like, oh, yeah, I ask for that all the time. And it's like.
But that's not what the ref said.
Yeah.
He said sudden movement on the defense. If you're moving sideways, that is not the same as like trying to go across the line to force some type of false start. So I do think the Titans got lucky there. Unless I heard Tim Hasselbeck say this on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace, like you said with the Mannings, that he thinks that the ref must have heard the defensive lineman try to imitate some type of audio snap signal at the same time. But that's not what the ref said, so.
Right, don't the refs say that?
You would think so.
I think they do say that. One texter says, the center made an adroit movement, you dweeb. Know your football. Dude, these pre-snap.
The center is on the offense.
Yeah, these pre-snap adjustments. I think he's talking about the Patriots game. But
Gotcha.
even then, like Herb Street, who I do think knows football, right? He was like, no. Now, Louis Riddick didn't like this call, but Louis Riddick, last night, man, he was.
Well, he's a defender. He played on defense, so.
I think that crew had a rough night, led by Fowler. I thought that JV crew, and again, they don't work together and things like that, but I thought they had a rough night. Craig says winning last night was still important from the standpoint that these other teams still think Vrabel can coach, so his trade value is still high. I mean, I think yesterday when things were going bad, when all those things were happening, they were talking on the TV broadcast like, oh, yeah, Vrabel, he's going to get it right. And I was like, okay. I'm used to hearing that. Maybe it's okay that everybody, thinks that one way or another. Texter says, Titans win out, Jags lose out, and the Texans win one more game. Who's in the playoffs? I have no idea. It doesn't matter. It's not going to happen. The Jags are not going to lose out. The Texans, again, this is fantasy land stuff. The season is over, folks. And if you end up winning every game between now and the last game or now and the second to last game, and then there starts to be light at the end of the tunnel, then we can talk about it. But right now, when they flash up all those graphics, all those teams that are ahead of you have beat you. So it's like, how many games are left in the season? 4? And Pittsburgh has 2 less losses than you. But that's really 3 because they beat you. So now for Pittsburgh or Indy, they have to lose all their games except for 1. And it's just, that's not going to happen. So the playoffs, that's over. Like, that's over. Like, move on. Like, just understand that the rest of this season is to evaluate, coach up, and then decide, what's the next step going forward. Joe from Maryland said the TV broadcast could not say one positive thing about the Titans. I'm not one of these guys that sits there and is like, they hate our team, the way that I think a lot of fans are when it comes to national broadcasters. Like, there will be a national broadcast of a game, and it's like, oh, yeah. And if you're a Cowboy fan, it's like, he hates the Cowboys. Aikman hates the Cowboys. It's like, really? Does he? But I thought that the crew last night, I mean, I didn't think very much of that crew last night. I didn't think they were very good. Dylan says, I'm tired of hearing people say that Mike Vrabel really coached the defense up. I'm pretty sure the DC is the one who came up with the game plan and got the players ready. That's not my problem with praising the defense. The problem that I have with all the praise of the defense is that the MVP of their team did not play. That's my problem. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to weigh in. 615-737-1025. Speaking of the Dolphins, I know this is not Miami Talk Radio. I do have something that I feel like we just all need to agree on. And I'm sure we won't, but we'll get to that coming up next. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. You know Hiller's taking great care of my home and done so for years. That's right. I absolutely love Hiller. Hiller's Cash for the Holidays promotion is back, and they're giving away cash for the holidays with select purchases. Hiller wants to make sure every child experiences the joy of Christmas this year, so they're donating $50 in Toys for Tots with every tankless water heater purchase and giving away a $250 Visa gift card with each unit. Get a $500 Visa gift card when you buy select new HVAC systems, or get a $500 Visa gift card with the purchase of any new whole home generator. And these purchases all have great financing options with low monthly payments. These deals are only available until the end of the year, so schedule today at happyhiller.com. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Again, my guys take great care of my home, have done so for 5 years, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today.
So with the offense, can you speak to the type of adjustment that it is when Tyreek Hill is out of the lineup for you guys?
Yeah, it's a lot of there's a good amount of offense that goes through him. However, we have made a couple plays, and it wasn't the reason for the lack of first half or really first 3/4 points. I think there was just critical times that we would be off a hair on first or second down and be put in a third down situation, and our protection wasn't exactly the what maybe we'd be used to on a play or two. Then there was a misfire on a play or two, and those things add up, But I didn't see it as we were obviously a player of Tyreek's caliber. It hurts when he's not in. However, I think there was plenty of offense to be had and got a lot of guys that I trust to do that. So
that was Mike McDaniel rambling last night after the game. Let me just say this. Tyreek Hill being hurt absolutely changed everything. And, again, I know that, the Titans played the Chargers. And when the Titans played the Chargers, some guy called in the next day and was just railing about Brandon Staley. And somebody texted into the text line, and I eventually cut the caller off, and somebody texted in the text line, like, dude, this is not Los Angeles radio. We don't want to hear about this. So I understand this is not Miami radio, but I do just – I have to get this off my chest. Tua sucks. Like, I am sorry. He stinks. And I am starting to think that if you put, like, an below-average quarterback with Tyreek Hill, that would make the below-average quarterback incredible. Or at least really, really good. Like Tua. I hear people say, oh, no, Tua is so accurate. And then I see Tua, shoot a ball over somebody's head. First drive in my notes. Hospital ball from Tua. Then Tua had the snap exchange on the fumble that he struggled with. Tua, when Tyreek Hill went out of the game, terrible decision by Tua on a ball for Jalen Waddle that Amani Hooker should have intercepted. I mean, Tua was terrible last night, especially when Tyreek Hill went out. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that the Titans don't deserve any credit with how they played, because I do think that Vrabel was like, okay, they gave him the Mariota treatment. They said, we're just not going to let you throw it over the middle of the numbers, and we're going to make you throw outside the numbers, and we're not going to let you just throw it down the field or whatever. But as soon as Tyreek went out of the game, that offense was hapless outside of running the ball with Raheem Mostert. Tua is such a fraud. The Dolphins are such frauds. I went into yesterday thinking the AFC was a 3-team race between Baltimore, Kansas City, and Miami. And I'm down on Kansas City because their offense is just booty. And so I was like, man, maybe Miami's going to end up in the Super Bowl. And then I watched them yesterday without Tyreek Hill. And Tyreek will be back. And again, if Tyreek plays last night, they probably win. But I'm just not sure that in the AFC playoffs that Tyreek Hill can win them 3 games. And I certainly don't think that if a team takes Tyreek out, not hurts him, but they take him out of the game, that Tua can say, okay, fine, I'll carry us this way. And I'm going to say this right now. If I had an MVP vote, I'd really, really, really consider giving it to Tyreek. The only other 2 quarterbacks in the discussion for me of guys that maybe win their team more games than Tyreek does for his team. I don't think Purdy wins more games for his team than Tyreek single-handedly wins for his team. I don't think Jalen Hurts, with that great offensive line, the 2 wide receivers, the pass rush we're used to from Philadelphia, I don't know what we're looking at now, but I don't think Jalen Hurts wins more games for his team than Tyreek Hill does. The only 2 are Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. And people will say Dak, and they'll throw Dak in there, But Dak's got CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard, and like Dak's got that defense with Micah Parsons and Deron Bland and all those guys. I mean, Tyreek has carried the Dolphins to the top of the AFC. And when he goes out, Tua's terrible. And I'm just going to tell you right now, if I was general manager of the Dolphins, and I know you guys say things all the time like, thank God you're not the coach, and it probably is a good thing that I'm not the coach. I'm sure we can agree on all of that. I think I would take Sam Darnold over Tua. Like, I think Sam Darnold is a better quarterback than Tua. And before you just know this. Sam Darnold's career was marred by 2 years with the Jets under Adam Gase. Then the Jets gave up on him. I think quarterback history of the Jets probably tells us that the Jets have a serious problem that is a Jet problem. Then he went to Carolina that first year. They weren't great. The second year, Tepper gets involved, makes Baker Mayfield the quarterback. That doesn't work. Makes P.J. Walker the quarterback. That doesn't work. Fires the coach, gives up on the season, stops micromanaging, and Sam Darnold got them back in the playoff race. I think Sam Darnold is a very underappreciated, low-end starter, incredibly high-end backup. I don't think it's an accident that Sam Darnold went to San Francisco to learn this Shanahan system on the bench for a year so that he can go to one of these teams with a Shanahan coach and be a quarterback again. And I think he's going to be good. Tua? I think Tua is so Tyreek dependent. He's got 2 good runners. He's got 2 good receivers. He's got a good offensive coach. He's got a solid tight end. And if Tyreek isn't out there, Tua's worthless. And so what's going to happen is when a contract comes due for Tua, they're going to want $50 million because that's the going rate as far as a quarterback's concerned. And if I own the Dolphins, I'd say we'll give you 29. And they say, well, hold on, wait a minute. You know, the top guys are getting 50, 52, 55 million. 29, that's not high-end money. Right, and you're not a high-end quarterback. But I'm not going to pay you more than Tyreek. I'm paying Tyreek 30. I'm not going to pay you more than Tyreek. Because I can go get Kirk Cousins or Ryan Tannehill or Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold, or I can go get that guy. That's who you are. And I can get that guy for less than $29 million. I think Tua stinks. And I've kind of always thought that. Like, I've always kind of been on Tua. And like me and Chad Withrow talked about it last week, and I'm like, is Tua a franchise quarterback? And he said yes, and I was like, I don't know. And then Chad was like, well, you just hate Tua. But I don't have any anti-Tua agenda. Like, I don't know Tua. I don't dislike Tua. I don't think Tua's a bad guy. I don't, any of this stuff. I just think Tua sucks. And I thought last night, Tua was terrible. Like, I watched Gardner Minshew play the Titans. I watched Tua play the Titans. And I know Gardner Minshew doesn't have Tyreek Hill on his team. And I think that Gardner Minshew is a better quarterback than Tua. I think Tua is so average. And you guys know me. I don't usually do this about quarterbacks, right? Like, I say people suck all the time. But, like, I don't say Dak Prescott sucks because Dak Prescott doesn't suck. I don't think Dak Prescott can win the big game. Like, I don't think he can go on the road to San Francisco and win in the playoffs. But I don't think Dak Prescott's like a low-end starter or anything like that. I think Dak's fine. I think Tua. I'll tell you this right now. I'd love to have an honest moment with Dan Marino after the game last night and say, Dan, what do you think about those 2 quarterbacks? Like, if you could switch them and put Levis on the Dolphins, would you do it? And I don't know how he could say no. Like, when it comes to Levis, with that arm and Tyreek Hill, just throw it deep every play. I am not a Tua fan. I don't think Tua does anything exceptionally well. He's not athletic. He's not big. He's not strong. He doesn't have a big arm. He's not as accurate as people make him out to be. He's just got Tyreek Hill. You can give average quarterbacks great receivers, and it'll make them better quarterbacks. It's amazing. Texter says, Jared, of all the things to criticize, I think the absence of Traylon Burks takes the cake. People who cover the team need to find out what is really wrong with the most expensive draft pick ever. I mean, I just don't think Burks is going to make it. I don't think he's officially a bust yet, but I think that as far as I'm concerned, I don't think he's going to make it. So Peyton Manning said something yesterday on the Manning Cast about Will Levis that I think is incredibly important and could be huge. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. Trevor in 30 minutes. We're live at Bridgestone Arena, by the way, today. Preds and Flyers tonight on Jewish Community Night, where we will be lighting the menorah here at Bridgestone Arena. And I've got a Nashville Predators branded kippah right in front of me, a yarmulke, which I am so excited about. So, I do not like the Manning cast. I like Aikman and Buck, but I don't hate the Manning cast either. What I hate when it comes to the Manning cast is, for the most part, I hate all the special guests they have on. Like Mark Wahlberg, right? It's like coming up, this Eagles versus Cowboys game, and Mark Wahlberg is going to sit in with the Mannings. I don't want to hear what they have to say. I want to hear what the Mannings have to say. I don't care about all these special bozos they bring on. They bring on a Tom Brady, it's cool, or something like that. But, like, I'm sorry. I don't need to hear from The Weeknd talking football with the Mannings. I don't care about it. But, again, I'm sure I'm not the target audience for this stuff. But I do wonder what they think. Because they, specifically Peyton, they know ball. And so last night, after the game was over, I waited for NFL Plus to give me the condensed version of the game so I could rewatch it and make my notes. And while I was waiting for that, I went back and kind of watched the end of the game on the Manning cast, just to see what the Mannings had to say. And Peyton Manning, during the fourth quarter comeback from Will Levis, compared the moment that Levis had last night to a moment that he himself had in his rookie season. And I think it's really important to listen to this and think about this from Peyton's perspective, because a lot of you sit there and say, oh, I don't want to win because of the draft pick, and we should be tanking, and I should root against them to lose, and things like that. But listen to Peyton talk about his experience on a 3-win football team in 1998. This was in the fourth quarter during the Titans' comeback.
I can't tell you the confidence this would give Will Levis to finish off this 2-minute drive. I mean, we all had that drive. And for me, I had one against the Jets in a bad rookie season, but I just, after that, I knew I could do it. I knew I could take the team down against a good team. I mean, the Dolphins, it could be Super Bowl favorites. For him to possibly, bring them back like this and take them down, I mean, I can't tell you what it would do for his confidence.
Shouldn't we listen to Peyton on that? So if you're somebody that's sitting there saying, oh, no, we went from the 5th pick to the 9th pick, I'm like, I think you miss the point of some of this. I think you miss what's at stake. I think you miss the learning ability, the teaching ability, all of these things. Peyton Manning, who is one of the greatest quarterbacks who ever lived, definitely a top 10 quarterback, maybe a top 5 quarterback, and a lot of people will argue that he's a top 2 quarterback. I won't be one of them, but some will. But easily a top 10 quarterback of all time, probably a top 5 quarterback. Peyton Manning is sitting there telling you, gosh, I remember a game in a horrible rookie season in 1998 against the Jets where I learned that I could do it. See, here's the thing about confidence is a lot of times people will say that they have it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they have it. And when it comes to confidence within other people and other people having confidence in the quarterback, it's easy to say we always believe in our quarterback. But do you? Everybody on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the day that Tom Brady showed up, had belief in that quarterback. They didn't have to fake it. They didn't have to say it. They didn't have to show it. Mike Evans knew when Tom Brady signed with the Buccaneers, this guy can get it done. Because he had done it. Because everybody knew it. For young quarterbacks, for rookie quarterbacks, it takes time. Everybody wants a young rookie to be successful. Everybody will say they believe in a young rookie. But I think it's different than just any Carolina Panther player that's like, oh, yeah, we believe in Bryce. And the Texans' defensive players, after the games that C.J. Stroud has won, saying, 7 is different, man. He is different. That's real confidence. When it comes to Will Levis, I think Will Levis is a perfectionist. And so I think Will Levis is smart. His S2 score shows that. I think that as far as Will Levis is concerned, he thinks he's got the chops for this. He thinks he can do this. But I don't know if he knows he can do it. I don't know if he knows. Like, again, I use Marino as the comparison here, right? Like, I know Tua can't be Dan Marino. And when I talk to these talent evaluators and scouts and things like that, everybody's got a different opinion on everybody. I went to a college game this year. I had one guy tell me that Will Levis he liked, but he thinks Will Levis is going to be one of 32. I talked to another guy there who called him Will Leftus because he didn't play in the bowl game last year. Everybody's got different opinions. But the reality is, at quarterback, if you make it, if you're a franchise guy, if you're Russell Wilson with the Seahawks, you're going to make $200 million. You're going to date famous women. You're going to be able to go anywhere and do anything. And yet, I'm sure there's a little belief in there of fear that, what if this doesn't work out? You don't think Will Levis knows who Ryan Leaf is? You don't think that Will Levis knows who Joey Harrington is? Will Levis probably knows Tim Couch. So while I'm sure he's optimistic and he thinks he's going to work out, he doesn't know it. He doesn't know he's going to be a franchise guy. Hell, half of you hated him before they drafted him. And even then, some of you didn't like him. But when he wins a game the way he won the game yesterday, the fans, and that's why I feel like I have to caution people to say, hey, hold up now. But the fans want to just throw their hands up and say, we've got a franchise quarterback. The players on that team, I think I saw a quote from the locker room. DeAndre Hopkins said, he's a dog. That is belief. And just like Peyton said, from his experience, at that point, he knew he could do it. At that point, he knew. I actually looked that game up against the Jets in 1998. Manning was 26 of 44, 276, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. They were down 23-10, and they got the ball late in the fourth quarter, and he hit Marcus Pollard for a 14-yard touchdown. They won the game 24-23. Other than just kind of Peyton talking about it, when I looked at the game book and the box score today from almost 30 years ago, there wasn't anything special in there. But it was special to Peyton because that was the moment that Peyton knew he could do it. I look back at the Steeler game and how Levis almost led you back to win that game. But he didn't. And I've always said this about the quarterbacks in the NFL, that I feel like they're not elite, but they're so good that teams can't move off of them. Cousins and Dak, and it's like those guys have done it sometimes, but they don't do it often enough. I don't think there's a feeling that I have that when the Titans get the ball at the end of a game that the Titans are going to come back and win it. I want them to, but I'm not sure I have that. And yet I remember a game in 2003. This was Steve McNair's, I think this was the 5th year of the Titans. This was the year that McNair won the MVP with Manning. Titans played Indianapolis, and I think they fumbled 2 kickoffs, and Indy scored, and the Titans had to claw their way back in the whole game. And so the Titans claw their way back in. The defense gets a stop. There's under 2 minutes to go, and they're getting the ball back. And every single person in the stadium, and I could feel it, everyone in the stadium knew Steve McNair was going to lead them back, and they were going to win that game. And I know every player felt that way. I know every fan felt that way. I'm sure Peyton. It was obvious in the play calling from Indianapolis because they threw the ball on 3rd down instead of running it to get the Titans to use a timeout because Indy probably didn't want to give the ball back to Steve McNair. And Justin McCarron's dropped the punt and you lost because Steve didn't get the ball. But that's just the kind of player that he was. Well, it takes actually doing it for there to be real belief. And so I know you guys, some of you want to tank the season and pick 3rd and everything else. But I don't think there is anything more important than having confidence in a young quarterback. Not just the young quarterback having confidence in himself, not just his teammates and coaches having confidence in him, but the fan base also having confidence in the young quarterback. I can listen to other radio hosts, young radio hosts, specifically ones working solo, and I can hear times where I'm like, this guy or gal is just trying to get to the end of a segment. They're like rowing a boat, and they're trying to get there. They're trying to fill the 11 or 12 minutes or however long their segment is. They're just trying to get to the shore. That's it. Because when I first started hosting a solo show, back in 2016 or whatever that was, that's how I felt. Now, Ian, I'd say it's a challenge for me to not run over the break times because I talk so much.
Yeah, sometimes.
I've actually gotten a little bit better with it, which I feel good about. But when Peyton talks about Levis like that, I think he sees Levis going through that. That doesn't mean he's going to be Peyton, but it means that that's the first step. And last night, Levis did it. And the struggle to know whether or not he's going to make it, the anxiety I bet Levis, who is a perfectionist, has about, am I going to be great? Like, am I really going to be the quarterback that I think I can be? I bet that struggle is real. And that's why success, like last night, is so important. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. And Kirk Cousins made a comment, too, on the Manning Cast about something the Titans did. And it's like I could hear in his voice the amazement. And maybe it tells us that Levis can do something that a lot of these other quarterbacks can't. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Haley's punt is away, and Guerrero decides to field it and muffs it, and Miami takes over at the 6. Elijah Campbell has the recovery, and the Titans special teams gaffes continue. Is that going to be a game-costing mistake? My goodness. Pitch by Henry's fumbled, goes back, scramble for it, another turnover. Bradley Chubb has the football, and the Titans have just self-destructed in the final couple minutes here after battling so hard.
It doesn't have to be that hard, but I'm proud of the character of this football team. Competing and then having it go in a different direction real quick, and then coming back and getting stops late, and being able to move the football late in the game, score, and was really proud of these guys.
Yeah, that was Vrabel. When they had those 3 plays or whatever, and all of a sudden they're down by 14 points, there was a part of me that was like, are they trying to throw this game? It was a very, very small part of me, but it was just such an implosion. And Kirk Cousins was a guest on the Manning cast yesterday, and this was Kirk Cousins' reaction after the game was over when the Titans ended up winning, and just the amazement that they won.
Heck of a win.
I mean, they really cost themselves 14 points and still found a way.
I mean, wow. They really cost themselves 14 points right there, and they still found a way. And you want to know why I thought Cousins, why I think this is, at least interesting to me, is because I think Cousins looks at that, and he knows I can't give up 14 points and win. And he probably wasn't even watching in the first quarter when Levis threw the pick 6. Like, he's probably thinking, like, if I give up 14 points, we're done. Because I can't make up for that. Years ago I used to ask Floyd about how can all these, we talk about Marcus, and he can't throw interceptions, and he can't this, and he can't that. And yet Phillip Rivers does that. Tom Brady does that. Why? And he's like, because they can get it back. Brett Favre, I think, is the perfect example of this. Brett's going to throw the ball to the other team. But Brett's also going to throw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. Brett will get it back. And I'm wondering if Cousins is just sitting there thinking, like, I can't do that. He knows he's porked. So is Tannehill if he gives up 14 points. So is Jared Goff if he gives up 14 points. So is Kenny Pickett. So is Baker Mayfield. I could go on and on about quarterbacks in the league that cannot overcome that. Now, I do not want Will Levis to get in the habit of giving points to the other team and then having to come back. But that's what made last night special. That's what made it, wow. Not everybody can do what Will Levis did last night. Phone lines driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com. Trevor will join us at 4:30. I'm going to ask Trevor. I'm going to say, what'd you think of Levis last night? What'd you make of it? Travis has been waiting patiently and is up next. Thank you for calling. What's up, Travis?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I just want to say I'm super, super impressed by Will Levis. And just having the know-it-all that they can't guard DeAndre Hopkins. They can't guard him, so why not keep throwing to him? And on top of that, the defense played pretty fucking good.
Hey, Travis. No, we can't say that. Now, thank you for your call. I will say this. We are not living in a utopian Titan society where everything was great last night, because everything wasn't great last night. I think DeAndre Hopkins is still a very, very good player. I've thought that the whole time. I mean, I went to training camp for the first week, and I told you guys that I walked out of training camp after the third day, and I called my dad, and I'm like, yo, this offensive line is horrible. Well, I also was on Sirius the weekend after the first week of training camp, and I was like, I just want every single one of you teams out there that cheaped out on DeAndre Hopkins of, well, he's getting older, and, well, he, doesn't always practice, which hasn't been a problem here, and, well, he doesn't. I just want you to know DeAndre still got it. And DeAndre has had it, I think, all year. And the Falcons game was an example of that. DeAndre's a very nifty receiver. Like, he's very I think I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. He's smooth. And I don't think that, again, that ages well. That's not like Julio Jones' explosiveness and leaping ability and running. And like that does not age well. Julio's craftiness, or excuse me, DeAndre's craftiness, I think ages well. I think DeAndre's great. I think they need to find another option, though, to go along with DeAndre. And poor Chig, man. He caught the ball yesterday, but he tried to drop it. And it's like, dude, you can do this. Dylan says, so far from what you can tell, does Tajay Spears remind you a bit of Alvin Kamara? No. I thought Spears had his best game yesterday. I actually think Spears had his best game against the Colts because I thought Spears ran better against the Colts than he ran last night against the Dolphins. And I thought Spears played great. I said that, I gave the game ball to DeAndre, but that I was considering Levis and Spears and Jalen Duncan as well. And Spears, let's see what he did rushing the ball, 7 for 29. Not great. But I really, Kamara is different because Kamara and McCaffrey can line up at receiver and run the routes. Spears can't do that. But I do think Spears is becoming a very good, like right now, Spears is a third down back. Regardless of whether or not that's what he is or what he isn't, he ran the ball well enough against the Colts to make me think that he might, let's see him try to run it every down. Now, I still bring Derrick Henry back if I was running the team, but I'm not. But I think, okay, let's see him run a little bit. Let's see what he can. But right now, what he's asked to do is basically the job of a third down back. And he's becoming a really, really good third down back. I'm still not sure that that's worth a third-round pick, but that's not Kamara and McCaffrey. Kamara and McCaffrey line up in the slot, and they play like a wide receiver. That's not Spears' game, at least not yet. And I'm not sure it probably ever will be. I think you kind of like either have that or you don't, but that's okay. Spears played great last night. Everybody that's out there that's like, this draft class is unbelievable. I'm like, whoa now. Like, when people say Levis stinks, I push back. When people say Levis is a franchise quarterback, I push back. Because I'm not there yet. Texture says, is Jared on the Levis hype train now? Ian, back me up on this. My opinion has not changed of Will Levis since before they drafted him.
You like Will Levis.
I like Levis.
You don't love him. You like him.
I don't love him. I wouldn't have traded up to number 3 to draft him. I would have traded up to number 3 to draft Anthony Richardson. I would not have done that for Will Levis.
Do you still like Levis?
I like Levis.
Okay, so you still like him.
I think that Levis, Levis has a lot of things that I like, and Levis has some things that I don't like, and I hope they can coach out the things that I don't like, right?
Sure.
And, I think he's done a good job of kind of recognizing and, okay, moves on. Like, for instance, when he got up at the podium last week and he said that, if he could do it again, he wouldn't have gotten into it with DeAndre on the sidelines. I'm like, see, that's a teaching, learning moment. Those things are important. 615-737-1025. Trevor will join us next. I'm going to ask Trevor this one question. Trevor, what'd you think of Levis last night? And we'll get into the Titans and their performance and what he thought. We'll also talk about the offensive line. We'll do all of that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Let's go. We'll give something away later. But we do have something to give away, so we'll do that at some point here today on the program. In an effort to aid those affected by the tornadoes from the past weekend, the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee and the United Way of Greater Nashville have activated emergency relief funds. For more information on how you can donate, visit cfmt.org or thegamenashville.com.
this is a big confidence booster for us for sure. I mean, this is not the record we would hope to have at this point in the season. Not the position we'd hope to be in the playoff race and all that. But all we can do is just keep pushing. And we talked about that all week, and we had opportunity to come and spoil their party, and be a really good football team and build confidence going forward. And I'm so glad we were able to do that. Yeah, I'm excited to watch that HBO episode.
There you go, Will Levis, a big confidence boost for the Titans. Trevor Matage joins us, is presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trev, what did you think of Will Levis last night?
Will Levis was clutch. I mean, unbelievably clutch on the road with two tackles that can't pass block, having to have two potential receivers on each side, right tackle and left tackle, to support those guys. Down the stretch, leading 2 touchdown drives to win this thing. There were 13 combined plays in those 2 drives. 12 of those 13 were passes by Levis. It was just an extraordinarily clutch performance in an extraordinarily difficult environment.
Trevor, put yourself in the shoes of an offensive lineman on the Titans. Go back to your NFL days. When Levis leads the comeback the way he did last night, does that mean anything to you about your belief in him?
It does. And I mean, it's not just the offensive line, it's everybody in that locker room, because you can see a guy's talent, and that's mildly interesting. I mean, you see guys do awesome in practice. They're incredible in preseason games, and then they get into the regular season games and they're not quite so good. And so what matters most is how you perform in those clutch situations. And the thing about Levis is that he has had to perform behind one of the worst offensive lines in recent memory, not just with the Titans, but really in the league in a lot of ways, with a receiving core that is essentially one deep, and they don't have a real deep threat because Hopkins is not a deep threat guy. Mm-hmm. And so with these limitations, as a rookie, the locker room watches him fight. They see him get hit hard repeatedly in the pocket, and he gets up and he fights and he maintains composure until he doesn't. You saw at the end of the game when they scored that winning touchdown, he came off the field and he just let it out. But until then, you could see him controlling it. It was controlled. It's like the difference between a nuclear bomb and a nuclear reactor. Nuclear bomb just goes off. A nuclear reactor, because it's controlled, creates power that can be directed. And that's the way he has shown himself so far over this rookie season. I think the way he finished this game adds to the way that his teammates see him as their leader and as a guy who can make them money by leading them to victories. It's the polar opposite of Zach Wilson with the Jets. Mm-hmm. Zach Wilson, when things started to go south, he showed his team that they couldn't believe in him. When they couldn't believe in him, he felt that. And he didn't believe in himself either as much, right? And there's sort of a circular thing going on, a self-fulfilling prophecy on both sides. And you're seeing that self-fulfilling prophecy positive on both sides, meaning the quarterback himself and the locker room. The more he performs as a quarterback, the more the locker room believes in him. The more the locker room believes in him, the more he knows he's their leader. And all that is a fantastic synergy for a young quarterback.
Trevor, I want to see Will Levis with a receiver that he can throw the ball down the field to. Tyreek Hill is the easy guy to say. He's the best at it in the NFL, and he honestly might be one of the best 3 or 4 players in the NFL. But I'm talking about a downtown threat, which the Titans haven't had in forever. And I use a guy like Olave with the Saints and his unbelievable speed. If Levis had a guy like that, would you be confident that his deep ball would be a legitimate weapon, or do you think there's still a little bit of hesitance there with that?
I've got no worries at all right now that he can continue to develop as a deep ball passer. And the reason is the way he's developed from college to now in the nuance that he's able to get into his throws. In college, when things started to break down, man, he would default to his fastball. It would be laser. And that's okay when it's appropriate. But there are times when you need to do what he did in this game, which is loft the ball up high and allow the receiver to adjust to it, to loft the ball a little bit high, but not too much, to layer it over linebackers in the underneath zone, but drop it into a receiver before the safety can get there. So it can't be too high. And he has shown his ability to nuance his throws based on the needs of the route combined with the coverage against that route. And he's doing that as a rookie. And he's not just getting lucky once in a while, he's doing it over and over and over again. Because of that, I have no questions whatsoever about his ability to translate his arm talent into being an effective thrower.
Trevor Matage is with us. What do you make of how Will Levis responded to mistakes yesterday? Like the pick six, gets right back up, continues. The fumbled pitch, down 14, gets right back up and continues. Is there a value in that, Trevor?
Yeah, it's tremendous value because as scouts, the scouts that are scouting their own team, the coaching staff, which is also scouting their own team, and and his teammates, they see that when things go south, what do? There's a lot of people that can't recover from a mistake because it just bothers them, and it leads to other mistakes because then they try to press and make up for the mistake by doing something Herculean. They try to unfurl a cape and become a superhuman, and other bad things begin to happen, and then you can't trust them. And you never know how a guy's going to be until he's in that situation under stress. And this was another rep for him to show who he is mentally under stress. Especially when he tossed that pitch, it was just a bad pitch. It was just terrible, and it should have been the icing on the game. He stayed focused. He didn't try to do too much. He took what was there and executed the way that each play was designed to be executed. And in doing so, he moved the team down for the winning scores. And so I think that's the key there. You can say all you want how calm he is, or I don't know that he's calm. I think he's focused. I think there's a lot of swirling going on underneath there, but he's able to take that and focus it. But most important is, does a mistake defeat him, or does he put the mistake in a compartment and focus on the needs of the current play? That's what makes a great football player. If you can focus on the needs of the current play, regardless of what happened the previous play, then you'll have a much better chance of being successful.
Did last night prove to you, Trevor, when it comes to Levis, that, and I said this at the beginning of the show, last night he had it. Whatever it is, however you describe it, he had it. That doesn't mean that he is it. Whereas Mahomes, Burrow, Brady, like those guys, 2 minutes, ball in their hands, it's like we know they're going to come down the field and win. But did last night show you that Levis has the ability to eventually be it?
Yes, absolutely. And you're right to say that it's not a big sample size, right? And he still doesn't have a big sample size. But we see him getting better and better each week at certain things. We see him responding to pressure in certain ways that give you confidence that he'll continue to respond to pressure in positive ways. That it factor, I think, manifests itself on the field in those clutch moments when a play needs to be made. And sometimes it's an incredibly improbable possibility that the play be made. And he is up there doing the right things with the talent to be able to make it happen. It doesn't always happen. It won't always happen. But you believe that it can. And that belief really translates into what that it factor is, as long as you can make it happen a lot. I mean, Michael Jordan's famous for saying that how many game-winning threes he missed, right? But the fact that he made so many of them, that's how you remember him. But he's going to miss a whole bunch of them. But that it factor was the clutch moment, the clutch performance. Now, before people sprain their thumb hammies tweeting that I just compared Will Levis to Michael Jordan, that's not the point. The point is the principle. What is the it factor? And he has shown, Levis, that he's got the ability to make you believe that he can pull it out even when it's improbable. Now, keep in mind that this team has lost a lot of games, right? They haven't won a road game yet this year with Levis or anybody else until this one. And so I'm not saying that, hey, he's great and the team has turned around. What I'm saying is, with this snapshot, he's given his team and the fans a reason to believe that he can have that it factor because he certainly did last night.
Trevor is with us. Trevor, I am going to put you on the hot seat and ask you a question on the other side of this. So I'm going to give it to you now so you can think. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Will Levis. 5 years from now, where would you rank Levis in that list? We will get Trevor's answer on the other side. We will do that. Plus, we'll ask Trevor his thoughts on the offensive line and Jalen Duncan and the rest of the Titans as well. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Stillman and Company, Trevor Matage is with us, as always, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. All right, Trevor, we teased this question. You are Trevor Kuiper Jr. 5 years from now, you've got to tell us how you would rank these quarterbacks Caleb Williams at USC 1, Drake May, who declared yesterday for the draft, UNC 2, Michael Penix from Washington 3, Jaden Daniels 4 from LSU, Bo Nix 5, and Will Levis 6. How would you rank them?
I would say number 1, Caleb Williams. He has a lot of Patrick Mahomes in him. He's got the ability to drop back in the pocket and be an accurate thrower, but he's also got an immense amount of magic to him. So I would put him at number 1. At number 2, I would say Jaden Daniels of LSU. He's got that ability to layer balls in all over the field. I mean, his arm talent that he showed this year is just remarkable. He also had over 1,000 yards rushing, by the way, and took some very hard hits. And I was surprised at his durability, even though he took so many hits. I think Jaden Daniels would be number 3. Now, of the others, Drake May to me is a bit of a mystery. He was awesome last year. This year, he's had to break in some new receivers, and he's been kind of up and down. Theoretically, he's got the ability, but I think I would put Will Levis above Drake May right now. Michael Penix Jr. of Washington, as a just pure thrower, he is fantastic. And he stayed healthy this year, but keep in mind that he had, I think, 4 season-ending injuries while he was in Indiana. So he's got to prove some durability, and I don't trust his durability in the NFL until I see him be able to play multiple seasons without having catastrophic injuries. So I worry about that. Bo Nix, I would put probably at the bottom of that list, or maybe one above Penix, because I think Nix would be more durable. I don't think he quite has the arm that Penix has. He's more of a dual threat than Penix. He had, 200-300 yards rushing this year, but they were key moments. I mean, Nix is a guy that can get out and extend drives with his legs, but he was also incredibly accurate. He had a higher completion percentage than any other quarterback in all of college football this year. That's Bo Nix of Oregon. So I trust that. I don't know how his arm talent is overall compared to some of those other guys, but I would put him down in the lowest of those until I learn more about how he can drive the ball in the NFL. So I guess I would put Will Levis kind of halfway through that group right now, right in the middle.
Trevor Matage is with us. What'd you think of the offensive line of the Titans? Let's start with Jalen Duncan last night. What'd you think of him?
Oh, goodness gracious. He is doing his level best. And they are learning how to compensate for him. They're learning how to have multiple ways to help him in pass protection. Put a tight end next to him, have a running back go over there, have a tight end kind of split out, and then come in to help him from the outside. There's all kinds of things they're trying to do. You can see his athleticism, but you can also see that he needs a couple of years, probably at least one, in the Titans weight room to really get some more functional strength. And then he might end up being a pretty functional player. He might be better than a functional player. But right now, if you're Will Levis, you have to count on that left side being a weak corner.
Do you think if this were the end of the year and we were having organizational meetings and I was the GM and I pitched to you the idea of, Trevor, what do you think about entering the offseason with the idea that we're good at left guard and left tackle with Skoronski and Duncan? How would you feel about me wanting to commit to Duncan at left tackle?
I think you were absolutely out of your mind. And I would invite you to continue your career in the world of finance or possibly construction, because he may grow into that, but until he does, he's not. And right now, he is an enormous liability over there. And he's doing his best. He's only, a 6th-round pick or something. So it's not like, you throw him in there when 2 other guys get hurt. And then if he's not playing like an all-pro, you're going to rain on him. He's doing his level best. But no, you can't count on that. Now, one of the good things is in this draft, 2 of the position groups that the Titans need desperately, receiver and offensive tackle, are 2 of the deepest groups in the draft. So I don't think you're going to need to bust the bank on a veteran left tackle if there's not one available that you feel is worth the cap hit in free agency. I think you're going to be able to get a guy that you'll be able to plug in over there and then end up with a pretty solid left side of the line for a long time.
Trevor, what did you think of the rest of the offensive line?
To a large degree, fought hard and took turns making all kinds of mistakes. Skoronski still is allowing way too much vertical penetration to his left. And I don't know if that's because he expects more help from the tackle or if he's trying to give some body presence to the inside for the center. I don't know, but there's times when he just gets turned sideways and he's chasing a guy and he's at a guard. You can see that with a tackle sometimes, but not with a guard, not ever. Brewer at center, he did a lot of good things, but he's just not able to hold down that position, in my opinion. I mean, even on the pick six, I'm not sure what was going on that pick six. I mean, there were so many things that were so wrong. It's hard to even tell what kind of play it was. But I think it was a screen because Brewer ended up about 4 or 5 yards downfield at the throw,
Sure.
Which should have been a flag. So there's just goofy stuff. I think Brunskill at right guard has been holding his own. He's been steady. He's been giving you what you can expect from him. Not great in any way, not even particularly good in any way, but he's been reliable. And I think Radens has been up and down. There's games when I look at Radens at right tackle, Dylan Radens, that I'm thinking he is really getting better. And then there's other times when I'm thinking, okay, he's hit his ceiling and he hasn't shown that he can bust through that ceiling yet. And I think the team believes that as well, because on those 2 touchdown drives at the end of the game, they were sending help both to Duncan on the left side and Radens on the right side, the 2 tackles, both at the same time. Mm-hmm. Now, what that means is that they had a maximum of 3 receivers to go down the field instead of a maximum of 5. But they got more pass protection out of it. And then those guys can maybe chip a little bit and then leak out as an outlet late. But that doesn't stress the defense the way sending 4 or 5 guys out into the pattern stresses the defense. And if they had more trust in Radens, they wouldn't have done that. But they did. And so, again, I commend both of those tackles for their effort. I can see the effort. But you can really see the limitations. And for Radens, it's the same thing that he had in college, where when a speed rusher starts to get around the corner, he doesn't quite have the foot speed to cut that corner off. He's got to turn and push and hope he can push the guy by. And at left tackle, that's a disaster. At right tackle, it's not good.
Are you disappointed in the progress or lack of progress with Skoronski?
Yeah, I am. I thought he would have taken a step forward from the middle of the season to now. We're kind of in the middle of the season, but I thought he started out doing some good things, and then he got better, and then all of a sudden things started to go south. And I didn't know if that was a function of so many inadequate left tackles rotating in, because you and I have talked before, Jared, about the importance of the choreography between offensive linemen. And all of a sudden, you've got a center that's too small to really hold up and drop anchor on Skoronski's right. And on his left, you got a whole parade of guys rolling through that aren't NFL tackles right now. And all of a sudden, he's got to somehow coordinate with those guys. And so that is hard for him, unless he just plays all by himself, in which case he's going to look a little bit better, but things are going to be worse as a whole. I mean, as a team on both sides, they still can't pick up a stunt. And Skoronski's part of the problem with that, because he's allowing too much penetration by the drag guys. And that does disappoint me.
Last one for you. What would you say to Titan fans that feel like what they've seen out of the rookie class, Skoronski, Levis, Spears, maybe even Duncan or Wiley, that they say this is a great draft class? Are you ready to agree with them on that?
No, I think there's promise that this can be a very good draft class. I think Levis is leading the way. Levis is showing capability and giving people confidence that he was a great pick at number 2. There's a lot of football to be played before we can say that, but he's showing that capability. Spears has been a revelation. He has been fantastic at running back. I mean, as a runner, I think he's very good. Again, running behind a pretty bad offensive line. But as a receiver, he's able to compensate in some ways for the bad offensive line, where they can get him the ball as a running back, but instead of having to bust through a defense that's defeating his own line, he's able to get the ball out into space and then be a running back out there. And he's been fantastic at that. I think Skoronski, I still have confidence he's going to be a very, very solid borderline Pro Bowl, if not Pro Bowl guy. He's got the ability. He's shown the ability. I think he's going to be good. Wiley, Duncan, and those guys are still absolutely the jury's out on those guys. We'll see.
Trevor Matage, as always, is presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trevor, great stuff today. We always appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jared.
Yep. Ian, I got Titan fans every day that tweet me that say, our draft class is so good. And Trevor's like, and again, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just early. It's just early. That's all I'm saying. Trevor's telling you that too. Barry Trotz, Predators general manager, will join us. Boy, I tell you, it was exciting when I woke up this morning and I saw that the Predators not only in the playoffs, which has kind of been, one day they're in, then they lose a game, then they're out. And not only are they in, they're in the first wild card spot, and they're clear of 3 points right now. Predators general manager Barry Trotz scheduled to join us. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company live from Bridgestone Arena. I did promise we'd give something away, so let's go ahead and do that while I've got your attention. Be caller 5 at 615-737-1025, and you will win a pair of tickets of 2-day passes to the Railbird Festival, a celebration of music, bourbon, and equine experiences at Red Mile in downtown Lexington on Saturday, June 1st and Sunday, June 2nd, with Noah Khan, who, by the way, I've never heard of, but apparently everybody that I know went to this Noah Khan concert like a couple months ago. I've never heard of this guy, but apparently he's incredibly famous. Turnpike Troubadours, Chris Stapleton, Hosier, and many more. Visit railbirdfest.com for more info and to purchase tickets. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios, Bridgestone Arena. Predators and Flyers tonight, 7 o'clock right here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tonight is Jewish Community Night. We will be lighting the menorah. Barry Trotz, who joins us every week. Happy Hanukkah.
Yes, absolutely. To all my Jewish friends, please have a happy holiday, and this is a very important night for them.
And we are very, very excited for that. Barry Trotz is brought to you by Gary Force Acura and Porvu. So I want to start with this morning when I wake up, and this is what I do. I think it's just kind of, I don't know, it's built into me. I go right to the standings page at ESPN.com, and I always click the wild card view. Because, like, I don't care about just, like, the total. I mean, I want to see, like, who's in, who's out. And for about the last 2 weeks and a half or something, it's been, one day you're in, one day you're out, one day you're – well, now you're in the first wild card spot. You're clear of it by 3 points. Now, St. Louis has a game in hand, so keep that in mind. Are you surprised right now, given how much you were patient with the fans about, hey, let's have reasonable expectations this season? Are you surprised by how well the team has played since the end of the road trip and where they sit right now?
Yeah, I think I am in some ways, and in some ways I'm not, because this is a really good group, and like I said, you don't know when teams are going to come together, when they get it, individually or collectively, and it's funny, we're playing a team tonight in Philadelphia who are probably very similar to us, and they very similar probably expectations, and they're playing very, very well this year, and so am I surprised? No. But am I surprised? Yes, because I know how hard this league is, and you don't know how quickly things will come together.
What do you make of, kind of the way you guys play on Saturday, where you go to Toronto, and for most of the game it felt like Toronto had command of it.
Oh, they did.
And, Toronto really felt like they kind of had a grip the entire time. Then you play on Sunday against Montreal. And I understand they're different teams, and both teams, I think, are in different places. But then you guys really play a much more complete game to follow up that on the back-to-back. What do you kind of make of that, the difference from one night to the other? And we've seen that a little bit, with the team so far.
Yeah, it was funny. It was after the game. We do ratings on the players from a management team, from a coach's standpoint, and we really felt the Toronto Maple Leafs were the better team that night. They just were. A couple things for me. I had my coach's eyes on that night, not necessarily GM eyes, and they really, really systematically dug in. A couple thoughts about why they dug in. You think about the games before. They had a few days off. They really worked on their game, some of the areas that they needed to, sort of zero in on. They had lots of time to prepare for us. They had a new goalie, Joseph Wall, who has basically been their number one, I guess, in the last little while. He got hurt and looks like he'll be out for a little bit of time here. So their team had sort of, I think, rallied around Samsonov, and they started their dad's trip, which, when you have your parents in the stands, you usually dig in on those trips and try to have a good performance. And I think all those things came into play in Toronto. They just played systematically a much better game. Their top guys were better than our top guys. Not that our top guys weren't good. It's just the top guys brought their A game, and they were a handful for us. And we hung in there. I thought Lanks did a really good job for us, but we just couldn't get close enough to really make it a game and a match.
What did you think about the Montreal game?
I thought it was a good response in Montreal. Those are sometimes tougher to play because you really dig in Toronto, and you're hoping for a victory against a really good team, and then you don't get it. And then the next day you got to respond. I thought we came out with really good, I think, good legs. Probably maybe the first couple shifts we were a little slow to the party, but after about 4 minutes into the game, I thought we dominated. We got a couple goals. We were looking like we were going to pull away from them. We never did. And then we sort of let them back into the game. And then at the end, I thought we were a little bit hanging on a little bit, but at the same time, Juice was really good for us. So I never felt like we were going to lose that game, but at the same time, I wish we would have had a little more breathing room in that. But good response by the guys, and when your big guys get shut down, which has been Forsberg and O'Reilly, and that we're getting goals from guys like Sissons and people up and down the lineup.
I'm glad you mentioned Sissons because I feel like we've talked about Sissons maybe 3 or 4 times this year. He was always a good player.
Yep.
But always kind of like a role player, penalty killer, good two-way guy. Could be on a power play, but probably not. And it feels like he has found the back of the net more often this season and consistently throughout the course of the season than I'm used to seeing from him. Why is that? Is it the coaching and the change in style? Is it, some puck luck? What is it about Sissons that has allowed him to elevate his scoring this season?
Well, I think it's a combination of a few things, all the things that you mentioned. I think he's got a fresh taste of some changes in the organization, especially with Bruno at the helm. I think his importance on the team. He's always been a very important player on the team for the coaching staff and for winning hockey. But I think he's got a voice in the room now, and that started last year. We moved some people out. Some people were injured. I thought guys like Colton Sissons and Ryan McDonough and people like that really, really stepped up to the forefront and said, "Hey, we're gonna get in the playoffs," and they really got us, really so close. And I think from that point on, I think Colton realizes how important he is to this whole process for us.
What's a relationship like between, let's use Sissons as an example, between you and the players, where I can tell the admiration that you have for him and how happy you are with, it sounds like the way that not only he's playing, but the way that he is, being a leader on the team. But at the same time, as the manager, I'm not sure you can just go in there and put your arm around it, good job, son, because at the end of the day, you may have to trade a guy, you may have to sign a guy, you may get in a situation like you are with Tyson Barrie. So how do you kind of manage those relationships?
Well, I think I've done a good job in my coaching career to always have the hug for the guy because they're human. The people are human and they have lives and all that. But there's at the end of the day, it ends up being business when you have to make those tough business decisions, and it's not personal. I really believe in our players. I believe in the people and their families and all that. And but at the same time, I think just like as a coach, there's times when you have to scratch people or sit people out, and they might be one of your favorite players, one of your best players, but you're not doing it to to hurt them. You're doing it to make them better. And I think I always try to separate that in terms of players need to have a pat in the back once in a while. It's not always about, hey, you got to fix this, you got to do this. You need some encouragement because you're not going to score every game. You're not going to be the guy, and this league is hard. And I'll tell you what, a few pats on the back and hey, I loved your game, or how's the family doing? I mean, there's those things that go a long way. So, in a guy like Colton Sissons, he's a quiet leader for this hockey club. He has been for a number of years. But I think his voice is heard, and the young players respect him so much. And from a management team, I know he's so low maintenance that sometimes he'll walk right by you and he won't. He's just quiet and he won't say a whole lot. But he's a pro inside and out. He really is.
Barry Trotz is with us, presented by Portvue and Gary Force Accurate. There's one thing you said last week that I've been thinking about the whole week. And it's
sorry about that.
Well, it's not, and honestly, it's not the part that everybody was talking about last week. But you talked about the goalie save stat that the analytics department told you with Saros, and about how he had stolen his first game. And you're an old school coach. You were scouting, you're coaching, and I don't want to call you old because I don't think you are old.
No, I'm pretty old.
But I mean, you're not young, if that's appropriate.
Experienced.
Yes. How much when you talk to the analytic team, I mean, you're not paying them to not do anything. I mean, it would be reckless for them to just sit there at the computers and crunch the numbers and say, hey, Barry, here's what our analytics came up, and for you to just throw it into the trash.
Yep.
So how much do you listen to that stuff? How much do you factor that in when you're making decisions about the team?
I think it's a part, and I can't give you a percentage, but I trust my gut, and I trust my eyes. Analytics is very, very valuable to connect the dots because our game is emotional. You have a better feeling when you win than you lose, all the time. But you can get skewed by a big play or, I, as a coach, when I used to, when we played well, I would let our guys know we played well. Mm-hmm. If we won and we didn't play well, I would let them know, hey, let's be honest here. We got the Jews stole this game for us. Let's call it what it is. We
like
got to clean
Chicago
up.
last week?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you need to have the reality of and the checks and balances of how you're playing. If you just go on emotion or on wins and losses, like we went on that long winning streak, and I saw it coming 2 games before, because you could see that the details that were making the difference. The first 5-6 games, they were starting to slide. And I know Bruno, the coaching staff, but hey, we got to make sure we keep an eye on this, And but as you're winning, you say, yeah, we're good. And then it comes to an effect, and all of a sudden you lose 1 and you lose 2, and then all of a sudden it goes the other way. So you usually can tell when it's turning a little bit. But analytics are very, very useful in this business. It tells you trends. It has some predictability to it. And analytics is probability. That's all it is. It's not necessarily what happened on the ice, but it's the things that will probably happen if you continue down doing the same things, and getting the same numbers. That it'll probably turn if they're good numbers and you're not winning. If you can stay the course and keep doing those things in the right area, it'll turn for you, and you'll win hockey games. And if it's showing up that you're winning and you have all these bad numbers, sooner or later you're going to lose, because the probability is there. So they're great tools for illumination and direction.
You said last week that after Chicago you would be going to Milwaukee to see the Admirals, and we know about how it's kind of like there's kind of 2 things going on at once, right? There's the building of the youth movement, and then there is, the team and the games here. What did you see in Milwaukee?
Well, I saw in Milwaukee, I really like the diversity of our young kids. They didn't have a particularly good game, which always happens when the general manager walks in the building. It seems over my years.
Gripping the sticks a little tight?
Yeah, they're gripping a little more. But I like the diversity. I mean, we got guys like Zach LaRue, who is, people love him when he makes the National Hockey League. He is fun to watch, and he's fun to watch because something always happens. And I know we talk about people like Marchand and that have been used in that, what does he play like? He's sort of like that, but maybe not with the high-end skill level that Marchand is, and that's a big reach. But then you go to Montreal and you see Gallagher, and every shift there's something happening. He's in the mix. That's sort of in the area type of player, like a guy like Zach LaRue.
Can I add, because you've talked about him a couple times, is there kind of a Tanner Jeannot element maybe to him?
No, not really as much. The physicality where he's gonna hit you and go after you. He's not gonna. Tanner's he's an ox of a man who's extremely strong, and he can back it up. I think Zach's more of that pest that will be in your face and he'll run into you and all that. And I think he can back it up. I think he has in junior. And then you look at him. He's a penalty killer. His hockey IQ, it's all there. So he's going to have to tighten up and get better in some areas. But that was one of those bright spots that you go down there and hope I'm seeing what I'm seeing when I'm watching him on the TV. So you go to a guy like Kemmel. Still, he's going to be a scorer. He really is. He's got an unbelievably good release. It's hard, and he's got an edge, which I love in players to have a little bit of an edge. Svechnikov was really. He's starting to take over shifts and times of the game where he grabs the puck and you go, man, he looks like the best player on the ice right now. And then he'll sort of fade away a little bit. So getting that consistency, and I think he started on the third line in Milwaukee, and you can see him moving up the lineup, which is a really, really positive thing. Obviously we've seen the Stastny's game here really translating really well. A guy like Askarov has got all the tools that you want. When I went up there, he didn't have a particularly great game, but the tools are there. I mean, he's big and he's very athletic, and he's got all those tools. So he's just got to get a little more polish and a little more tightening up of his game, which people tend to think that he should be here right now, but he's only like 21 and he's young. So
also goaltending's not an issue right now.
Goaltending. Yeah, I think we're okay with there.
Yeah.
So I think that's you take that all combined, there's some really good things happening in Milwaukee. Schaefer, a young guy. I always say you let the junior guys play the first 20-some games in the American Hockey League. They start to get a feel for it, and then they sort of take if they're good players, they start taking the league over a little bit. They find themselves, they start scoring. A guy like Schaefer's playing very well. He's killing some penalties. He's on the power play now. But he hasn't had the numbers yet. He's getting chances, but he hasn't hit the numbers yet. And once he starts hitting a couple of those numbers, then I think you're going to see him break through a little bit of I call it glass ceiling and be a real good player down there, and then hopefully for here.
2 quick ones for you. One, any update on the Barry situation? Teams calling you calling teams, anything there?
I think we've been calling around, and obviously it's out there. And Tyson's been Ty is one of those great teammates that you have. He's a terrific person. He's been a good player, and he still is a good player in the National Hockey League. We have 7, maybe 8 NHL defensemen, and Bruno's basing it a little bit on play, basing it on the opponent, trying to keep everybody in the mix. So it is a little bit tough, but at the same time, we're in a league where obviously salary cap driven, that it is sometimes hard to move. There's right now, if you look at some of the stuff I get every day in terms of the cap friendlies and all that, there's only 3 or 4 teams that have the ability to even take on his contract. And I'm more than willing to take something back, work out a deal, something that works on both sides. But there's been a lot of players out there, and everybody doesn't have a lot of flexibility just because we're so far away from the trade deadline. So I'm going to do what's best for the Nashville Predators, so that we get something in a situation where we're not just giving them away, but at the same time I want to do right by the player. If the player wants more ice time or whatever, I'll try to accommodate him in his camp. So we're in a great spot with in terms of our relationship. But at the same time, I know it's a tough spot for Ty and his group right now, and he's just got to be patient.
Any update, with Tommy Novak coming back in there? Think about his contract, working through that.
Yeah, well, obviously we got a few guys who are going to be they're UFAs, RFAs. We're talking with their people in preliminary stages. Obviously, a lot of the camps in the UFA, if their management teams want to hold off.
Sure.
And play that game a little bit, and I understand that. But at the same time, we'll have to put some deadlines in place for some people, and if they don't meet some deadlines, then, as I say, it won't be personal. We'll have to move past or do something different. So, but we'll be very fair in what we're going to try to attempt to do, and try to put a real good team on the ice for the next number of years. So it's really important decisions for us.
Barry Trotz, good luck tonight. Again, this is one you guys need to win because it is Jewish Community Night. Our people will be pulling very, very hard. We have big expectations of the Jewish community over
there. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have so many great friends of that faith, and what's happening over on the other side of the world. It's real. I got a chance to go to Israel last Christmas, or just before Christmas, and I'll tell you what a fabulous country, and what's fabulous bunch of people over there that are surrounded by a lot of hate, and that's part of. I think over here we don't understand that part of the world as well as we think we do.
Barry Trotz, as always, joining us on the program. We roll along. We continue. Happy Hanukkah, Barry.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
2 yards here to keep the game alive here. Tua in traffic. He'll be brought down in Tennessee. He's going to secure an incredible, improbable comeback victory and win for the road on the first time this year. Unreal. Landry, who was a factor in the fourth quarter, got to the quarterback, and this crowd is absolutely stunned the way this is finished.
That was the first Titans road win in forever. I mean, in forever. Since the Thursday night game in Green Bay, which led to Todd Downing's DUI, the Titans have not won a road game. And they've played some real crap bums on the road, too. Like Indy. Like the Chargers. It's been bad. It's been bad moment after bad moment, Tampa. So they finally won one, and I just want you to know it feels nice to have a win. Now, the Titans dropped to the 9th pick in the upcoming draft, but I can live with that. Coming up next, we went a little along with Barry there, but coming up next, I really don't know if anybody actually feels this way. A lot of people in the text line are mad at people who supposedly do feel this way. So we'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
like that, and how much of a relief in it like to get that.
Yeah. It stinks I kind of got hung up on the field with the interview and stuff because I kind of missed I feel like the main celly, but we're going to have a fun ride home, and it's going to be a celebratory 12 hours at least before we get our mindset on Houston.
Will, do not have too much fun on the way home because as we've learned in the past, some of these road celebration plane rides have gone awry as far as the Titans are concerned. Now, I want to say something because I saw a lot of people saying this in the text line or on Twitter or whatever, and the thing that they've said is, I don't care about our draft status. I'm glad the Titans won. Now, I completely agree with that sentiment, but I just don't know how many people are really out there that are like, oh, we could have had the number 5 pick, and now we've got the number 9 pick. And so I don't know how many people actually were mad about that last night. How many people? I mean, I know somebody tweeted me last night and was like, was this a good thing that they won? The answer is yes, because winning is a habit. Here's the thing about habits and changing habits. Are that normally in order to change a habit, it has to become an identity, right? Like, so the identity of your team has to be, hey, we're a team that knows how to win. Kind of like Kansas City. Their identity is winning at the end of the game so much that they cry like freaking babies when they don't get a call that was a good call. They cry like babies about it. But that's their identity. They think they're entitled to winning. They think we're supposed to win all that. We got Patrick Mahomes. We're supposed to win every game. I know. Here, winning was a big part of what the Titans did. The identity of the Titans was kind of this sense that, hey, it may not be pretty. It may not be the most aesthetically pleasing way to win. May not have the best quarterback. But this team will find a way. That was how they used to always, that was the identity of the Titans. Now the identity of the Titans is, kind of suck. And that's not a good identity to have. So the way to end that is to start winning. You've got a young quarterback. If you want your young quarterback to be successful, he's got to have confidence. They have to have confidence in him. I'm going to tell you this right now. You all may think that the fans don't matter. They may act like the fans don't matter. We need to have confidence in him. Because I think a quarterback can tell when his fan base has confidence in him or they don't. Especially in this era where these quarterbacks are just as addicted to the cell phone as everybody else who's 24 years old. He knows. He hears what's being said. He sees it. There's no way that when this guy was a backup quarterback at Penn State and nobody really knew who he was or cared, there's no way that that guy was on his phone as much as every other 18-year-old and now at 24 years old has now just said, you know what? Throwing my phone in the trash. I'm not listening to what anybody has to say. That's not how 24-year-olds operate. Malik Willis heard the boos when they put him in the game of the Falcons game. That's why the Titan players got so mad about it, was because they were like, hey, let's defend our teammate over here. We heard the boos. So confidence is important. And so, again, the difference between the 5th pick and the 9th pick, there's value in that. There's real value. Like there is a draft chart that says, hey, the 5th pick is worth, and I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, but the 5th pick is worth 2,100 points, and the 9th pick is worth 1,600 points. Like, that is real value. But so is winning. So is the belief in the young quarterback. And last night, Will Levis absolutely made his case as far as being the investment of the future. Because there are going to be quarterbacks in this year's draft. There's going to be, I asked Trevor in the last hour to rank the quarterbacks in this year's class and where Levis would fit. And he put both Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels ahead of him. And so if you're the Titans if you're running the Titans, if you own the Titans, and Levis doesn't play well down the stretch and you lose, I think there could be a sentiment, just like there was with Malik, of, well, maybe with the 4th pick, let's take a crack at one of these quarterbacks. I think Jaden Daniels will probably be available with the 4th pick. If he's not, then Marvin Harrison Jr. is there, or one of these other guys they tell me is really good. And so, that's not nothing, but at the same time, the idea with Will Levis, if he has more performances like this, Trevor came on the show last hour, was talking about how, he showed it. The it factor. He had it last night. Well, now they can go into the offseason and say, all right, let's build around him. Let's sign free agents. Let's get some offensive linemen. Let's draft a receiver. They can build their team accordingly as far as that's concerned. And so I actually think that the people, and again, I don't know if these people exist or not. I actually think that if you're a Titan fan and you looked at last night and you wanted them to lose, I think you are crazy. And I'm not one of these people that says, hey, I want my team to win every game. Losing is completely unacceptable, and I'm never going to root for it. Because when the Titans played the Indianapolis Colts week 17, 2015, and a loss meant the number 1 pick, and Zach Mettenberger was playing quarterback versus Josh Freeman, and there was nothing tangible to gain by winning except ruining your draft status, I was hoping the Titans would lose. Last night, when ESPN, for some ridiculous reason, decided to flash the other game up on our TV, as if we don't have remotes and can't change the TV ourselves if we really wanted to watch the Giants versus the Packers, when they put that game on our TV, which, by the way, they don't do for the NCAA tournament, right? They've got the score in the corner, and I'm fine with the score in the corner. But in the NCAA tournament, if I'm just watching a game and I'm watching, Iowa versus Western Kentucky, and that game starts to kind of, it's a 9-point game, or it's early in the second half, and I see in the corner that it's a 1-point game on True TV, I'm like, put it on True TV. If I wanted to put on the Giants game last night, I could have put on the Giants game last night, but instead ESPN decided just to put the game right there, and so I spend all this money on a giant TV, and now I got to squint, and I'm like, all right, second down for the Titans here. And the reason I say this is because when the Giants are kicking a field goal, I'm like, make it. Because making it would be good for the Titans' draft status. So yeah, those things that don't have anything to do with, the current team or the makeup of the team or the confidence of the team or anything like that, sure, if it's good for the Titans, good. But I'm not going to sit here and root for the Titans to lose when there is still so much season left in terms of development. And everybody is so much better off when you win, right? Will Levis, and again, I don't completely blame Levis for the pick six. I do blame Levis for the fumble. Where he pitched it back to Henry. I don't blame Levis for the pick six. I blame him, but I don't blame him 100% on Levis. I thought the play call was stupid. I thought Skoronski did a terrible job. Trevor said that what Aaron Brewer did was committing a penalty, all of those things. Everybody stunk it up together in order to allow the Dolphins to have that pick six. But if they lost, that would be the talk. Would be about all those things. Would be about, Levis, he screwed up too much there. He was good at some time, but he screwed up, and he's 2-5 as a starter, and he's not. Well, that's not good. I don't want that. I want it to be like today, where I'm sitting there wondering, what do you think Dan Marino was thinking last night watching that game? Because I think Tua sucks. I think Tua is average. I think Tua might be a backup. I really do. And so what was Dan Marino thinking watching that last night? And before you sit there and you tell me, Tua, has the best completion percentage in the league, let's give Will Levis Tyreek Hill and see what happens. But again, if you're one of those Titan fans that was like, no, our draft status, You're what I call an off-season fan, the kind of fans who start talking about this stuff in October, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care about that. I care about the season. And again, as far as the draft is concerned, I'm not worried about whether or not the Titans are going to be picking 7th or be picking 4th or be picking. I'm not worried about that. There is value in it for sure, but I'm not worried about it as much as I am worried about can you pick or can you not pick? Because if you don't know what you're doing when you're picking, you're going to blow the first round pick just like you're going to blow the second round pick. And if you can pick, then you'll probably get good players in the 3rd round and the 5th round. And, you're not going to get a Pro Bowler in the 6th round, but you'll get somebody good. That's all I ask for. Speedy texts into the text line. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Speedy says, this drives me crazy that people want their teams to lose for draft picks. Those people aren't true fans. The day the Titans start throwing games for a draft pick is the day I am no longer a Titans fan. See, I don't necessarily think that's true. And here's why. I hear this all the time about true fans. I think a true fan is somebody who wants the team to do what's in their best interest. Like what's in the best interest of the team. If it's in the best interest of the team, that's what we want them to do. And at times, losing sometimes is in the best interest of the team. Like as far as the Predators are concerned. They made it to the playoffs 2 years ago and convinced themselves that they could be a contender, but they never were, and we all knew that. Sometimes that's not good. Again, I use that 2015 Titans example. What would that win against Indianapolis have done for you? Nothing. But I wouldn't say that doesn't make you a true fan. A true fan is somebody who lives and dies with the team. And so if you're a Titans fan and you think that it's better to lose, that's your prerogative. Just like if you think that Johnny is better to play than Jimmy, then, that's, again, that doesn't not make you a true fan. Matt says, what happened last night is very important for Levis, Duncan, Spears, and every other young guy out there. It's important for guys seeking a contract and guys who will be playing there in the future. So I think there's some truth to that. The other stuff, like Jalen Duncan, again, he didn't bother me last night, which I think is okay. But that didn't bother me. But Trevor came on today. I asked Trevor, I said, hey, if I was the general manager of the Titans and you were on the staff and we were in our postseason meetings and we were deciding what the team needs or doesn't need, and I said to you, hey, we're going to go with Jalen Duncan at left tackle, what would you say? And he basically said that, you're crazy. Like, you're crazy if that's what you think. I'm like, okay. Well, maybe it's good for him to get those reps, but as far as oh yeah, he's our left tackle now, I'm not so sure about that. One texter says, I agree that it's important to win, but my only thought is they're going to play Davis Mills this week, so it would have been nice to lose to the Dolphins, win against the Texans, and you don't even get a higher pick. And also to clarify, I'm not all in on the Titans losing, but I am more indifferent on the outcome. See, here's what's funny, is that somebody tweeted last night, I forget who, Adam Vingan texted it to me. And they were like, after the Titans won, they're like, all I'm thinking about is how mad Jared Stillman must be. Which, by the way, is wild to me. The idea that after the Titans win a game like that, anybody cares about what I think. I think that's wild. But it's almost like, oh, he's so mad. Why would I be mad? Now, when they fumbled the punt and the Dolphins scored, I turned to my dad last night watching the game. I said, you know what I'm going to say tomorrow at 2:00? I said, I'm going to say that last night was not terrible for this organization. Now, would I have liked them to be able to field the punt, win the game? Absolutely. But it's not the end of the world that they didn't. But then they won. And there was even more positives in the confidence that gave me and Will Levis of the potential that he could, the hope that he could be your franchise quarterback. And that's a good thing. So, yeah, you people that thought I was going to be mad that they lost, well, you guys are crazy. Why would I be mad? 615-737-1025 is our phone number. One texter said, Jared, I think you may be onto something when you said last night, I think the good Lord gave the Titans a win for old Frank. Look, maybe. Honestly, maybe. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Predators Game Day is presented by TJ Anderson Homes and Benchmark Realty, online at tjandersonhomes.com. TJ's my realtor. In fact, talking with TJ yesterday, and he's doing great. Get your house seen, heard, and sold with TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty tonight. 7 o'clock, Predators and Flyers right here at Bridgestone Arena, and it is Jewish Community Night. In fact, right here in front of me, I have my Preds kippah, which I can put on my head, as we celebrate Hanukkah over here. And we will be lighting the menorah, and we're very, very excited about that here, again, on Jewish Community Night. They can't lose. Ian, I'm going to claim it. They can't lose on my night. And Jewish community night, I'm going to say, is my night. It's our night for members of the tribe. We start with the coach's take, Andrew Burnett, on the Flyers and what to expect tonight.
Well, be ready. Obviously, it starts big. Be ready to work. They're probably the hardest working team in the league, and they can really skate. So you got to put those two things together, and it's going to be one of those games. You're on a little bit of a road trip for a bit and come back, and you don't say catch games, but it's going to be an energy game, and we got to try to find some energy tonight.
Okay. I want us to document right now on 12/12/23 that Andrew Burnett said Philly was the hardest working team in the league. And I only say that, let's remember this, Ian, because if he says that Philly is the hardest, if he says that another team is the hardest working team in the league, then we'll know it's bullcrap. I've never
Gotta
watched.
call him out on it. Okay.
Absolutely. Have you watched Philly at all this year? Are they the hardest working team in the league?
You know what? I haven't really watched Philly much. No.
So Philly comes in at 15-10-2, good for 32 points. They are third in the Metropolitan Division, which means if the playoffs were today, they'd be in. And the Predators are 15-13-0, good for the first wild card spot in the Western Conference. So not only does that mean that the Predators are in, but as of right now, the Predators are 3 points clear of St. Louis. They've got 30. St. Louis has 27. The Predators are 3 points clear. Now, St. Louis has a game in hand, and Edmonton at 25 has 3 games in hand. But it does look like the playoff race is starting to shape up, and it looks like you may be on the right side of the line. But the number one thing to not do is to go on a losing streak and also win games at home. According to MoneyPuck.com, which is the only site that we use in terms of deciding these kind of things, the Predators currently have only a 33% chance to make the playoffs. Ian, what's that about?
A lot of season to go, bro.
I mean, a 33% chance. I think they're going to make the playoffs. But it's games like tonight where it's in the middle of the season. They just got off of a road trip. They got another road trip upcoming on Friday. These are the ones that they got to make sure they get. And they also have to make sure they get it because tonight, again, is Jewish Faith Night. Tonight is our night. My night, Max's night, the rest of the tribe's night. Happy Hanukkah. Stillman and Company. Max will have you with the pregame show. That's coming up next. We'll see you all tomorrow at 2.